Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Championship Wednesday, where today we have the ACGL Season 3 FreeFire segment. My name is Iro, and I am joined by co-caster DK, where today we're going to be showing you all the jams and whistles for FreeFire in the 6 games. DK, welcome aboard. It's good to have you on here. How are you feeling?
I'm pretty excited to be here, Ero. I mean, as you said, and I think that's actually quite an interesting one. You said all the jams and whistles. I've heard a lot of things, but I've not heard that. And that sounds exciting and intriguing. And I want to know what's the jams. I want to see it all.
I mean, the jams is coming through, your top teams over the last 4 weeks that have made it to this final moment. There's a grand finale where, they put in blood, sweat, and tears to actually be here among the best in Africa to now compete for the championship title of ACGL Season 3 FreeFire. Now, looking at this, it wasn't so easy. 4 weeks of competition can be quite tough. I mean, putting into perspective, the chance of winning your share of 5,000 Rand is what is being played today. And I think, we're going to be looking at that breakdown here, DK. We've got 5,000 Rand in first place, or 10,000 Rand prize pool. We've got 10,000 Rand prize pool, 5,000 Rand in first, second is going to be 3, and then in third is going to be 2,000 Rand. Now, that's a lot of good money to be walking away for these guys right over here this evening, DK.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty good day at the office. So, best of luck to everybody. I hope you can be the one to walk away with that lion's share and, of course, bag as many booyahs as you can. But it's always good to see the teams having something worthwhile playing for. And as we've seen in the previous season, there was a lot of action. Now returning, coming into this one, I think that is just going to elevate the gameplay even more so. And, of course, 5K in the pocket. I mean, come on, that's going to be a nice day.
Honestly, it is going to be a nice day indeed. The top 12 teams are going to be competing in a 6-game format in today's evening. I mean, we're looking at games like the maps being on Alpine or whatever the case may be. Strategy in here is going to differ per game. I think the first game is more so going to be about feeling it out, seeing exactly what the other teams are going to be playing like, because when you're going into qualifying rounds, it's very different. You are potentially going up against different types of teams that manage to register and check in time. This time around, you've got the same 12 teams that are going into the 3 different maps that will be played throughout today. So your strategy, do you feel like you get it formed after one game? Where do you find a strategy in a tournament? Is it your first, second game, or do you just wing it as it goes into each game?
Well, I think realistically, looking at the amount of maps that they have to play across, right, the sooner you can get the needed information, the better it would be for you. But usually, as you've said, the first match is usually that litmus test, right, where everybody's trying to get a feel for what's coming, like how aggressive do they have to try and be to measure up against the competition. But I think another factor to consider here is the fact that we've got a few returning teams from the previous season as well, right? The team that won last season, they're in the lobby, right? So are they going to have a bit of a repeat? Will they have another opportunity to get that victory, to walk away with the lion's share? Or could we see a few new potential contenders looking to rise up, play the upset, and maybe take that prize pool for themselves?
I mean, it's always the case, especially in such a competitive environment when you're playing in an ACGL Season 3. We just saw over the last few days some of the competitions take place, and one of those competitions was Fortnite. Not your fan favorites actually winning the entire segment. It was new underdogs or, those contestants that do repeat in an environment that is so competitive. So I do see, if you having your Nunjagos, your Vans coming through into this tournament, they have the experience. They know exactly what it means to be in such a competitive play style. So most likely you are going to get that podium finish being the same consistent teams. But I'd like to have an underdog story come into a Season 3. It's always great to talk about, those underdog players that actually sweated it out through the 4 weeks of competition, and then now it's just down to the last 6 games for today to actually do shine and make a name for yourself. It's always good to bring a spotlight onto new players or the underdog players in the FreeFire community. And talking about the FreeFire community, thank you all for coming through this evening and spending your time on the ACGL broadcast. I hope myself and DK is going to be giving you guys a show that you guys are going to be talking about for the next couple of days to come. But as always, guys, hit that like, share the stream to your friends and family. Let's get some energy and vibe going up in the comment section. Who do you guys think is going to be walking away with the Booyahs this evening and the overall champion of ACGL Season 3? I won't be putting any commentator curse on these teams right now. So let's see exactly who is actually going to come out on top.
Well, it is going to be interesting one, of course, looking at that flight path, starting at the bottom, heading to the top. Somebody's got to try and climb it up. I'm always so surprised, right, when I see Cape Town on a map, and I'm like, I know that place in the game as well, right? It's always so exciting to see, but we are starting off here, rather, with a good distribution of our players. Everybody trying to get themselves spread out. Ooh, that is an interesting... He's going down backwards. I mean, that's confidence. Arrow, that is confidence right there. Everybody else is going to be looking down at the ground. And then we've got dude over here is like, woo! You know, I don't even need to look. This is a no-look landing. But yeah, decent spread starting us off. It is a good zone also over on towards that southwestern side. But I'm going to be looking to the teams on the edges, right? Looking to see how they're going to get themselves back into that safe area, because there's a little bit of an opportunity to come through with a few surprises here.
Exactly. I mean, coming in on the positions that you find yourself, especially off spawn, is very important. You always do want to get those sneak attacks onto your opponent, or just ideally the best loadout. But right now, good widespread of opponents, and it doesn't look like any POI is going to be a direct contest. It does look widely spread. I mean, you do got AMG quite close to another team, but other than that, every POI is occupied by a single team. So no off-spawn action is going to take place right over here. So the team that's going to exactly do what you say, you know, go off on the edges and then go in with that surprise attack is going to probably be at an advantage. So looting up right now and moving on to the next POI is probably going to be the best strategy, especially when there's no off-spawn fighting. A lot of nerve opening that's also going to need to happen, because now, you know, you're quite comfortable. You're stressed about your POI being contested. It's not contested. And now you're getting sort of breathing and getting comfortable with the fact that you're not contested. And then your next fight, there goes that blood rush. And suddenly you're not the same calm player you were just a few moments ago. So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly when that first bloodshed is going to happen right over here in game number 1 of the FreeFire.
But one thing that I'm also looking forward to is to see what Fire to Fire and Amigos are going to be bringing in here. We have taken a look at the Amigo squad as they were making their way on through. And of course, we'll see Fire to Fire at some point throughout this match once they start getting engaged in the action. And now the reason why I said I want to see what they're going to be doing here, Arrow, is because last time, previous season, match number 1, Fire to Fire, even though they won the overall event, they came in 3rd in the first match. And of course, Amigos came in 9th. So there is a bit of an opportunity for both of those teams to start off on a much stronger footing coming into this season. And who knows, they might maybe even blow us all away. But a good little bit of a connection there being made by Meta Charles. Also quickly on the reaction, I like the fact that everybody's just trying to apply as much pressure here as they can. But of course, we have a few new faces on the map as well. So I want to see what all these new squads are going to be bringing into the Carnage.
Yeah, looking at Carnage and, you know, new players, you're not necessarily too aware of their playstyle, whether or not they, you know, get that first connection of shots and then immediately calling the entire squad to come push in. But we've got a sort of a potential 3-way fight happening right over here with the third party coming out from KN, which I believe is going to be Knights Esports. I don't see anything close to that name right over there. So they're coming in, just taking in a third-party shot right over here. Hammocks is taking massive damage. Duo plays down right over there, and I think, you know what, pretty much even damage across the field. And Shudo, just moments later, would have been knocked, but good placement coming up from him. Teammate is going to be able to support over there. Lots of duo between the players right now, and a fight action happening right over here. But both players go down, but it is an even trade between the two. Good long-distance shots coming out from Aparo, but I think right now disengaging from this combat area is going to be more beneficial to him then to continue trading in some shots.
Well, we like the action, we like the heat, but are those glue walls going to hold up to the heat? That is the big question. As far as I know, when it comes to glue, if you apply heat, they come undone, right? So maybe you don't put too many of them in that situation. Fortunately, this is not necessarily the case here, as the players are going to continue to push on up. And of course, the Amigos getting the heck out of dodge. You can see them all just getting launched up and flying on forward. Oof. Actually moving away from zone. That is a very interesting tactic coming through from them. And it does seem like, at least for the time being, it is a little bit downhill for the Amigo squad, as I think their numbers have now just been called. So not the greatest start that you would want here. Hopefully they can look to bring it back a little bit later on. But speaking of bringing it on, right, we are going to be moving further and more onwards, as that sounds horrible in English, but hey, let's go for that. It's going to be Paradox Gaming over here. I assume it's them. And they're pushing out just on the edge of Plantation, getting a nice little cheeky trade here. But can they find more? Currently sitting on 4. Hey, a pretty good start.
Honestly, good amount of eliminations to work off at the very get-go. You know, getting those kill points is very important, especially at the early stages. It just helps with concentration on placement points going towards the end over there. No team has been fully confirmed, done and wiped right here. We've got Amigos Mutsaki getting eliminated right over there, and I hope I got that name correct. And it does look like he is going to be needed to be brought back and rebooted, and we can see some of the buybacks actually happening. We had 39 players, but still 12 players remaining. Amigos right now with Luxen with the grenade throw, but does connect. Big damage and a big knock coming out from Nigan, who manages to connect that right over there. Beautiful shots coming out from him.
Almost called that squad Hightail because of the HT, right? I'm pretty sure that's not what their name is, but hey, we'll keep going. And I'm going for dragons, right? That's what DRG. That's the vibe I'm getting from it. I'm getting Hawk. I'm getting Remind. So yeah, I mean, if I'm wrong, I'll try and patch it up. We'll do a quick little bit of a fix later on. But in the meantime, we're just waiting to see where these zones are going to be taking everybody. Already within that second phase coming to a close here. And I like this era because it's applying so much pressure onto everybody, right? They know that they have to be quite cautious. And of course, Vent now trying to get a little bit of a situation here as... Is that layout or was that layout? We'll go with lay. Just lay. Keep on laying down the sprays. Get the bits in. Make everything happen as best you can. But yeah, it is going to be action as we push on for the solar flare. Ooh, this could be a bright one.
Could be right here deep into Riverside. Just taking a bit of storm damage. Also SLF right in that position. Just about to make that rotate into safe positions. We're back at 45 players. So some of that buybacks is actually coming into play. And you can also see O2 making the exact same thing, getting Quipo back into action right over there. So that's going to be quite helpful for them. So it's all about elimination, knock, buybacks in the early stages of a game number 1, Free Fire. And I'm waiting for that first team to actually be sent back to the lobby. So we're going to see who is going to be taking a stake. Because we're already 8 minutes, 20 seconds into the first match of the year, but no team has been fully wiped out. Just so much action across the board. Shido, unfortunately, doesn't have his back covered. And look at this. Luxen taking out 2 of the players right of there. Good damage coming out from him. Just needing to use some of those utilities to heal up. But a bit of damage from Apero as well, who throws in a stun over there. So right now, things are pretty much okay for KN. You already see Shido's back in action. Luxen takes big damage, and this is revenge moments here for Shido, who manages to get that knockdown onto Luxen and a full confirm coming out. So that's their second elimination as a team right now.
I mean, they're trying to keep it up, right? I'm noting also that they've got 1-3-5. So Aparo should apparently be number 7 if they're keeping with that trend. But speaking about trends, that is going to be number 1. Pushing on through, getting the sprays on in. Ooh, what is going to happen here is Negan is going to look to try and come up with a little bit of a cheeky jump here. The Knights just up ahead, trying to get into the compound, take a little bit of damage. Let's see whether or not Shadow 1 can survive this. 3 is there to provide a little bit of that backup, that support. But it is quite a bit of a challenge, right? Quite the task at hand and a full send coming in here as Negan and the rest of the team now just rush on up. Turbo, Oofy, coming out there, scoring the points and 8 eliminations already in the back for them.
Yeah, I mean, just look at that confidence push that was coming out from Negan. He didn't even think twice about what was in that compound, what was waiting for him. He went full in, managed to get that confirmed, and they're sitting at 8 eliminations. We got NJ, I think, Nomjugo's team right over here with just 1 elimination. And we got the guy who's going to prison in the game right over here with Solus and Dante and as well as Yari.
Well, I mean, you know, if you gotta go to prison, you gotta do it, right? It's if that's where the action's at in game, sure, right? Get the job done. It's a funny way to say it, but you know, maybe we'll get a bit of sniping coming through here from Snipe. Is the snipe from Harry Potter, or is the snipe as in boom boom, like we see happening right there, getting a cheeky double elimination secured?
I think it is the snipe in the game. Perfect shots coming out. Luxin, who was confirmed earlier by Knights, has been brought back, but is under pressure from Paradox right now. He's got a 3v1 situation over here, and I think he's just about to get knocked yet again, and a buyback coming out from Amigos is needed. So Luxin right now is just feeding the lobby with kill points, as it seems.
Well, this could be quite the paradox that we are looking at right here. Of course, it is Paradox Gaming making their way through. A little bit of a cheeky run as they move along that northern side, trying to get themselves up into the zone. But, yeah, we don't really see too much opposition directly ahead of them. Things look quite different as we hop over onto Factory, as it is going to be Turbo and the rest of the crew trying to fight their way out of this. And it is pressure, pressure, pressure. Solar Flare trying to light it up as well, and they do succeed getting the wipe. But now comes the hard part, getting your butt back into the zone, get back into that safe area, because you don't want to get caught outside here, Aero. You want to be inside, because that's where the action's at.
Inside is always where it's juicy. You know, you have to be safe and sound. That retail space is also looking quite occupied, or as it stands right there. And HT looked quite confident in the early pushes, so it's very important to see such a strong team get taken out down to 19 as it stands right here. And we got action in the tunnel, and it does look like Nitro 7 gets eliminated, and as well as the double kill coming in confirmed. 5 eliminations sitting on NJ right now as things stand. 2 onto Diddy and 2 onto Solazin. Good shots coming out from him over there, managing to connect at distance. Snipe needs to maybe, you know, do exactly what he's capable of and pick up some eliminations. But Solazin is doing exactly what he does best and getting those solo pickup eliminations, now sitting at 6 as the team stands.
It's looking pretty good there for them. They just got to keep that pacing rolling. But in the meantime, we are going to be hopping over to Just, because they are just strong. But the question here, Aero, is, are they strong enough? Right, can they pull a cat out of a bag? It seems rather simple, but can you pull a hat out? That's the big tricky one. Meanwhile, it's Dragon coming through with a spray, trying to supply a bit of pressure onto the edge of the building there. So far, it does seem like it is working out somewhat decently, I'd say, but Vent still has a bit of an opportunity to escape, reposition, and reapply some of their own pressure here. Meanwhile, as we jump over to CP, Zero United, also just on that far edge. Gen, though, I'm not quite sure if Machine is going to be able to get into the zone securely.
I mean, does have the utility to sort of buy him some time without getting noticed. You got Luxin, who's also quite aware, but he gets sniped, taken out, down to 7 teams. And NJ with 8 eliminations is keeping an eye out on the surroundings. So Machine right now, if he gets into the open, he's pretty much doomed. But I think he's going to stay okay for now as he manages to sneak himself into the safe zone. And we're down to 6 teams, 21 players remain across the board. A couple full squad teams are still alive. So the competition is going to be quite a tough one towards the end of this game, as we have these teams sort of position themselves in a good place. Unfortunately, I don't think the tunnel is going to be quite great position for them towards the end of moving zones. They could find themselves trapped in here and taking massive damage from the zone.
Yeah, I don't dig it, right? It's not a great spot to be in, especially with that zone closure coming through. I do see a bit of a shout out for Paradox. in the chat. So let's see, can they do the paradoxical thing here and apply that pressure? Snipe getting snapped, and Sneaky now stepping up, trying to keep that torch alight. LTK also just on the edge here. A lot of pressure with those 8 eliminations. If they can get the booyah in the bag, it's going to be a very happy day for them. Henrique, though, is going to be up for the time being, trying to get to the teammates, not being able to pull it off just yet. But now Sneaky has to do as the name suggests and be super sneaky about it. Gets a beautiful trade-off. One down, a few more to go. Not quite out of the woods, but up comes the surprise play as the Dragons come storming on in. We are now down to 4 remaining squads. And look at this. It is just a phenomenal position on the edge, getting the team wipeout. And down to 3 we go, Aero.
Down to 3, 9 players remain. Tunnel movement right over there. You got one team from Dragons, one player from Dragons, NJ full squad and full equipped with their team, taking big shots at Remind over there. And I think just about to get eliminated, managing to heal up quite a bit. On the other side of things, Just is looking quite okay as they are positioned below NJ, so out of sight right up there. They won't be taking any action. All it is for this team right over here is eliminating Dragons, getting him out of this one, and NJ and Just can go on a 4v4 combat for that booyah right over there. Question is, who is going to go out with the win? We did see Paradox most favorable in the comment section right over there, but unfortunately they're being taken out. Just loses a player. They're down to 3, so already they're at a disadvantage going into that final fight that we are expecting in a moment's time.
I gotta say, Nemjugo here, absolutely phenomenal position that they have. Beautiful bit of elevation, but can they turn that against the side of Just Strong, right? All the way on that lower position, but that zone is going to be moving a little bit more towards the east. Dragon, as you pointed out, finding themselves in quite a bit of a predicament, so much so that they've been sent into the lobby. Now it's going to be that final showdown, the final 7 players to fight for control. Who's going to be the one to walk away with the booyah? Just Strong coming through with a strong 3-piece. Meanwhile, it is Nemjugo that are rocking up with a full squad. So numbers-wise, they have the advantage. But again, this tunnel over here could present quite a bit of a challenge. And I think we might be looking at a bit of a war of attrition coming into this final stage.
Yeah, honestly, looking at these players, going into the tunnel probably wasn't the best idea. We'll have to see whether or not they will be able to escape that. I don't know just how far wide that zone is going to go for them to actually be able to move out of this tunnel right over here. But Nemjugo played the patient game, waiting for these players to come out of that tunnel, and from there it is straight combat. Now, a numbers game advantage is towards NJ. They've also shown a lot more resilience and they are combating, but it's 13 eliminations versus 8. So when it comes down to gun skill, is Just stronger than NJ in that area? We're gonna have to wait and see exactly. This is all about waiting patiently for the right moment to actually get the team in a winning or fighting position. So right now, just moments away from the next zone closing. We got that 15 seconds to see exactly what is gonna be the decision making from Just Strong or NJ.
Yep, it's all gonna come down to these last few moments, as we've got about 5 seconds or less remaining. As you can see, Just and Nem both just standing pretty much on top of each other here, but unfortunately there's not too much accessibility. It does seem like Nemjugo is going to push further on down. They figured out exactly where to find Just Strong, and then now push on forward, looking to apply that pressure. Kero quickly popping the shields, just trying to survive, but it's an absolute assault here as Nem just keeps on applying aggression all across the board. Amara is going to get taken on down, and that is Nemjugo picking up the booyah right then and there. A very strong start to the proceedings here for today.
No, definitely. They position from the get-go when we were in that endgame was really important. They had that natural height over everyone. Dragons fell short with just one player in their team, trying to make the rotate, but unfortunately couldn't make it. Just Strong managing to take out Dragons over there. And then Just Strong, unfortunately, because of the great positioning Nemjugo was already in, they then sighted in for the tunnel play. But Nemjugo didn't give them any time to escape. They just went into that final sweep into the tunnel to get those eliminations and got away with it. Sitting at 11 eliminations in that booyah position. But just strong also with a lot of eliminations at hand, they came out quite strong. So that was a good, hefty game that we just got to witness. Very strategic in that final moments coming up from Nomjuga, and they actually then brought in that booyah that's going to position them quite well on the leaderboard for game number one. But that's just game number one. Bermuda finally done and dusted in that map right over there. We're going to be going over to the next one, but I think, you know what, it's always going to be a change of strategy as we repeat these three maps over the 6 games. So there's still a long way to determine overall victory. But BK, I think, you know, to get into game 2, we have to take a little bit of a short break. So we'll be right back as we tally up those leaderboards and as well as set up game number 2.
They can, but of course we have a few new faces on the map as well, so I want to see what all these new squads are going to be bringing into the carnage.
It's been coming up from him. Teammate is going to be able to support over there. Lots of blue will be team of players right now, and a fight action happening right over here, but both players go down.
Launched up and flying on forward. Oof. Actually moving away from zone. That is a very interesting tactic coming to the front.
Those kill points is very important, especially at the early stages. It just helps with concentration on placement points going in with the connector, but it does connect big damage and a big knock coming out from Ligon there. So right now things are pretty much okay for KN. You already see Shido's back in action. Looks to take big damage, and this is revenge moment here for Shido.
5, so a barrow, apparently number 7. Keeping with that trend, but damage. Let's see whether or not Shido 1 can survive this. 3 is there to provide a little bit of that backup, that support, but it is quite a bit of...
It has been brought back, but it is under pressure from Paradox right now. We've got a 3v1 situation over again. I think it's just about to get knocked yet again. And a bye-bye.
Factory, as it is going to be Turbo and the rest of the crew trying to fight their way out of this, and it is pressure.
So it's very important to see such a strong team get taken out down to 90, so he stands right here. And we've got action, and the shots coming out from him over there, managing to connect at distance. Snipers to maybe, you know, do exactly what he's capable of. Service is doing exactly utility to sort of buying some time without getting noticed. We got Dixon who's also by the way, but he
keep that torch alive. Ultimate, so just on the edge here, a lot of pressure on those 8 eliminations. If they can get the booyah in the back, being super sneaky about it, gets a beautiful trade-off. 1 down, a few more to go, not quite out of the woods, but up comes the surprise on that lower position. But that zone is going to be moving a little bit more towards the east. Dragon, as you pointed out, finding themselves in quite a bit of a predicament, so much so to fight, but it's an absolute assault here as Nem just keeps on applying aggression all across the board. Amara is because they can, but of course we have a few new faces on the map as well, so I want to see what all these new squads are going to be bringing into the carnage.
It's coming up from him. Teammate is going to be able to support over there. Lots of blue will be team of players right now, and a fight action happening right over here, but both players go down.
Launched up and flying on forward. Actually moving away from zone. That is a very interesting tactic coming through from.
Those kill points is very important, especially at the early stages. It just helps with concentration on placement points going in with the connector, but it does connect big damage and a big knock coming out from Ligon with this. So right now things are pretty much okay for KN. You already see Shido's back in action. Looks to take big damage, and this is revenge moments here for Shido.
5, so a barrow should apparently be number 7 if they're keeping with that trend, but damage. Let's see whether or not Shadow 1 can survive this. 3 is there to provide a little bit of that backup, that support, but it is quite a bit of...
It has been brought back, but it is under pressure from Paradox right now. We've got a 3v1 situation over again. I think it's just about to get knocked yet again, and a bye-bye.
Factory, as it is going to be...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to ACGL Season 3 Free Fire. We just witnessed an amazing strategic booyah coming out from Nomjugo, who managed to get into the tunnel and eliminate Just Strong in a tight position right over there. DK, what do you have to say? Was that perfectly played out? Were there other ways to do it? I don't think so. They won the game, so what else could have been done better?
I think it was a brilliant strategy from them, right? They pretty much figured out, you know what, the other guys, they're not going to come up top. We might as well go down and go look for them. So yeah, a brilliant strategy, good way to execute that. And of course, as we can see, it played out quite well looking at these overall points. And it is a pretty decent spread against through our top 5 teams here, as you see it going all the way from 23 down to 12. So if FreeFire want to step up again, right, they're going to have to bring the heat coming into game number 2 and beyond. So there is going to be a little bit of pressure for them. But Nemjugo, they played a really good game here, so they're not going to be all too phased. Dragons also, surprisingly, even though they had that one player making it all the way to those late stages, still finishing strong here with 22 points alongside the squad here of Just Strong. So I'm pretty hopeful that it is going to be quite an eventful few matches that we have. But I'd love to see the Amigos also step it up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we did see a little bit of them. It's just so unfortunate that the players or the teams that are alive, they really go to the very end of the end game. And that's when you only start to see eliminations or team wipes actually come in. So placement points, it's very tough to get here in FreeFire. And I think the most important thing that needs to be bouncing, in my opinion, is those off-spawn mid-game eliminations and keep farming the same team that keeps doing those buybacks, because I think that's the most important. When you're looking at just placement points alone, and good start over here to BT, where they managed to pick up a elimination of Spawn. Timmy, however, was knocked, and there's still a bit of trouble coming in on the action right over here, as Gen Meta is picking up King Hydra, gets that elimination, and that means BT's down to 2 players as well. We're getting that buyback already for Crack, so in terms of numbers, they are quite strong. But I was talking about, placement points and kill points. I think FreeFire's meta in terms of getting ahead of against everyone is going to be the eliminations.
I mean, that's a good strategy because, as we know, you'll obviously get awarded for those elims, and there's a lot of them that these squads can look to bank on. So, yep, you got to bring on that heat, right? That's the only way that you're going to get out of the oven, is you just got to bring as much heat as you can. Bring the bats, bring everything. Bring the kitchen sink if you have to, but it's all going to be up to Paradox to see how they can get their position started over here in Ski Lodge, as they do find another little cheeky trade onto the side of the Amigos. And it's just chaos and carnage, always at the start, right? It is so frantic, but I love to see that because it's a golden opportunity for the teams to really bank on as much of this as they can. But for the time being, it is a wide spread, right? We did have a few of those hot drops, but it does seem like the teams have now kind of just repositioned. I say that, and Layout is flying across the water, right? Straight into the side of Lumber Mill. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to what DK is saying. I'm just going to go out there and look to get more chaos happening.
Literally, and we're looking at that kill points or the kill teams right now. And it did look like CP was taken out on early rotate. So CP0 United, they did get eliminated quite early. Right here, Layout going into action. He gets himself knocked. Timmy and them not near in terms of action to actually pick up some of those support, but Layout can be brought back and at least continue that fighting at a later stage.
I think the only thing that's sometimes a little bit challenging about Lumber Hill here is the splinters, right? Ooh. Cracked gets cracked as the shot connects on up, and that was a pretty crazy shot there, as Gero now looks to move up, get the confirmation, and off they go. One down, a few more to play with, as there are still 42 players spread all throughout this map. So I've got to say, for Just Strong, this is another strong start. Already sitting with 3 eliminations up. You got to watch out for those corners. They do allegedly stop you right in your track, but Amara and the rest of the team now got to look to keep the ball rolling, as you know, it's not all cut out to be what it should be over in that Lumber Hill. They got to look for better grounds elsewhere. Dragons, though, ooh, that's a fancy skin.
Yeah,
you need to get one of those.
That is quite fancy indeed. We got some action here with Dragons picking up some eliminations over there, and that is their second kill point coming into play right now. Layout finally brought back, getting into the map right now. VT not looking too confident on their start, multiple eliminations across the board for them, and right now they're just waiting to get some super loot out from the container. We got SLF, who also didn't have a really good start, but now looking ever so different. 4 eliminations to their name at the very beginning of game number 2. Still 11 teams across the board that is fighting for Booyah right over here, 43 players, and we are just about 5 minutes into the second map right here, which is Purgatory. So let's see exactly what happens for these players right here and who will be coming out with a Booyah.
Ooh, yep. That's going to be the big question that we'll look to have answered. But in the meantime, it is Lurkin outside in the danger zone, taking a little bit of damage at least for the time being. Amigos, they're going to have to try and piece it all together. They're going to have to run the right way as Nitro now tries to neutralize the aggression descending down upon them. But it's going to be a very hot seat to try and wiggle their way on through as Paradox. We did see in the previous match, they walked away with those 17 glorious points, and Sneak and the rest of the team keeping up quite a bit of an aggressive front line here.
Yeah, Luxon putting himself in danger, just going straight in the open right over there. But Paradox are quite numbered down over here. So taking a fight is not going to be the key over here unless L2K MVP makes his way to go get some buybacks, as he is quite distant from Sneaky right over here. So the strategy could work in favor for them. Sneaky takes all the attention to him, while L2K makes a run for a buyback in the future. So really good strategy coming out from Paradox. He brings all the players into the little compound over here and tries to deal as much damage as he can. And he's very much sneaky, going in and out of the buildings, and Amigo is not really sure of his location. And just look how he's playing with the heal right over here, but massive damage onto Sneaky, and he's still rotating and playing against a 4v1 situation, but eventually he's going to get taken out.
Yeah, I think Sneaky tripped on shoelaces over there, right? That must have been what happened. You always got to make sure that you double tie those laces, otherwise it puts you in a very uncomfortable position. In the meantime, Just Strong now about to get rushed as they continue to push up into the zone. Quick cheeky trade here onto Matsuke. Oh, beautiful hit coming through from Kero. Kero is my hero for this one. Beautiful spray. But now, still quite a few teams left, right? Still sat with 11. We've got back up to 40 players. But that zone is going to look to pressure everybody, so they're going to have to focus forward and keep on running. As you can see, Just Strong now trying to stay strong as they land a few beautiful hits. But HG now in a world of trouble, managing to quickly pick up a few of their squad members here, but they're not out of the woods, right? They have to keep on going, and Just Strong is going to just keep on coming.
Yeah, we got HT fully revived in that position over there. Hammocks, however, down and knocked, and Kuro just about to follow suit, but he is going to get knocked eventually. Luffy as well finds himself in some trouble. Oh, the snipes coming up from Rysix, but he is going to get taken out eventually, and Amar is going to come through and save the team. We're down to 10 teams right now with that team wipe coming out from HT.
Well, Amar did have a hammer in his hands right there, so I can see how you drew that conclusion. But speaking about conclusions, let's see whether or not Nem Jugo are going to be able to conclude with another Booyah in the back. They still have quite a bit of a way to go all the way in Mount Villa. Let's see, can everybody get in the vehicle and get out into safety as those shields are slowly going down. Amigos back up to 4 pieces. They continue to push forward. We have only 35 players remaining currently. 10 squads left to rock this map up. But here we go. Hydra getting eliminated as well as we did see in that feed. But now it's going to be the sheds that will, well, get shedded down as the hits continue to rain on up. It is, of course, the Dragons. There's health bars. Up and down they go. But the zone also just staying well ahead of them.
Yeah, no, definitely. They just need to get into that safe zone right now, be in a better position. We've got Absolute and his team in a decent location, and I think ready to drop bombs onto the opposition players. We're going to have to wait and see if that comes into play. But we're in that second zone of 8 with 9 minutes of playtime. Couple of buybacks needed. We're down to 35 players. 5 more players in the map can still be brought back. and have a full 40-man lobby with the 10 players that do remain. So we'll have to see if some of these teams can find themselves in better positioning to actually bring back some of their players that have been eliminated from the lobby. We got VT, who's hunted right over here. So they're just staying in the compounds, trying to stay as safe as they can possible from the opposition players that are hunting them down. YK is taking shots.
If you know, you know, right?
Yeah.
If you know, you know. If you don't know, good luck, because it's just a whole bunch of bundled up letters. But I believe that's what it means, right? If you know, you know. So I know. And then there we have it. Yeah. And here comes the players now from the side of Solar Flare. They had a good crack at the previous matches we saw, walking away with those 12 points. Can they try and push that a little bit further this time around? 5 eliminations up, so it is looking pretty hopeful. But they're going to have to try and aim and get into that late game, right? Going out in mid-game, yes, you do only walk away with those placement points and, of course, the eliminations. But if you get the booyah, it's just so much better, right? So let's see how that one is going to pan out. Meanwhile, the Amigos, one of those squads also trying to bag a few more additional points, are going to try and sneak everything out of this compound. And as we can see on that mini-map, there is a bit of opposition right here alongside them.
Yeah, no, in FreeFire, it's always going to be the case, And I think similar style like PUBG as well is, you will get some players near each other in different compounds and etc. Right down for Paradox, they on a rotate. Denrico just, I think, getting brought back or somehow flying in the sky, and then the rest of his team are still around in the vicinity. 5 eliminations to Paradox, also not too shabby. We had that 39 players, just one more needs to be brought back, and we have a full lobby of 10 teams that do remain right over here. So we're going to see exactly if that comes through, but with just how much space is going to be left, it's going to be quite challenging to find yourself a safe place to actually be. As you can see, Just Strong taking a bit of damage already, one player down, then out, and you got Kuro also who's knocked in their position, so not too good for them. You got Dragon going up against Absolute, who have cornered that team into a little bit of a room, and right now it's not looking too good for them as Dragon is looking quite confident as they jump straight into it. They're going all crazy right here, shotgun in hand, damage across the board, and 2 players of Dragons has been taken off, but I think equally trade, and I say that, and Hawk is the only player from Dragons left alone, and revives are definitely going to come into play for that team right over there. Will they be able to do it in time is the big question, and I think that's actually what's going to happen. So big dubs coming out from this team over here, where Born to Die, Rip managed to bring NJ, but they need to get out of this situation right over here. There's just too much action happening at that vicinity.
Yep, you can't spend too much time there. It is turning into quite the costly altercation. In the meantime, it is going to be Vent just trying to get themselves back on their feet, as it is Jimmy and King Hydra currently needing to get rest on up. But Paradox, they're not going to wait for any of that as they just rush on in. 8 eliminations up. Are they going to be able to find even more? We do see a little bit of momentum getting established here. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, they came in with 17 points into this match, currently sitting with 8 eliminations as we saw there. It is a pretty good way to go, but there's still quite a bit of opposition, right? 7 teams remain. It's not going to be an easy play for anyone. But speaking of which, though, Solar Flare also moving up. I like this mobility, trying to just get themselves secured on the edge of zone, and that's actually going to allow them a little bit of a vantage point onto the squads who we see situated more towards this eastern side.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think more so on their strategy, I think they're quite happy with the 5 elims that they managed to pick up throughout the game. Number 2, they didn't place so well, or they did get some points, but now to get even into the top 5 or top 4 teams of game number 2 is going to be even more rewarding for them, balancing that out of there. And Juga and them again playing a passive in the very beginning and then working their way off to elimination points and placement points towards the end. And that's exactly what we're witnessing right over here. 3 elims with the player just that were caught outside of that safe zone. So it was just pressure of zone and pressure from Namjugo. And unfortunately, they do get eliminated. Paradox with 8 eliminations, you said it. They have so much momentum in this game, and I think it's looking good. You got Born to Die that's, maybe the next targets of Paradox. We'll have to wait and see if that comes through. Just Strong with only 3 players right over here. I think, they did have this similar setting in game number 1 where they came second with just 3 players as well.
I was just thinking to myself, where is Nemjugo? And then I see their pink dots right there in the center of the zone. So you got to give it up to them, right? They are really good at positioning, at least in what we've seen in these past 2 matches. They are just being such a menace to the rest of this lobby. But now the big question is going to be, will the rest of the lobby allow this to be the situation? We can, of course, see Meta trying to get a bit of a breach, trying to get that jump over onto Just Strong. But so far, Just Strong looking to be just ahead when it comes to these plays. Oh, Charles, though, does find a play over onto Kero. This could be that opening that they have been waiting for. Of course, so many hits connecting up, all the walls just popping up all over the place. But is that going to be enough to save the squad here as they get taken on down? Gen, step up and get the job done. Now, Paradox, 9 Elam strong. They've locked on a target. And, of course, they are focusing solely on Nemjugo.
They're in Nemjugo's position right over here. Bottom versus top. Who is going to be the better team to come out of this one? And I don't know if SLF is still in here. Are they? I think they're towards the end. Yes, they are. They are playing that, hide and seek game, waiting for everyone to actually fight, and they just farm that placement of points. We saw them at 5 earlier. They're now on 8. So they are actually doing quite good in terms of picking up kill points. But also look at this. Top 4 teams remain right over here. All the teams in the compound now need to rotate. And with Nemjugo on height, actually could wait for Paradox and them to start making that movement and then take the damage through the windows. We'll see exactly what the strategy is going to look like. For SLF, they can just rotate now towards that other side of the building and find themselves quite in a better position. But they need to be careful, of course, of Gen Esports also there who find themselves just outside the compounds. For Paradox and Nemjugo, they also in tough positions. The zone's shrinking. We wait to see exactly what the decision making is going to be from all 4 teams. A bit of damage coming out for Nemjugo and them as the building is taking a bit of damage.
Well, I like what Paradox is doing over here, Arrow. As you can see them just positioned on the edge. They know that everybody behind them has to rotate towards them. So a little bit of a funnel play happening here, but is that going to be enough for them to lock it in? Of course, now Soliflare trying to do what they can as well to bring in a little bit of that disruption. Going toe-to-toe here with Paradox. So 2 squads fighting over towards that western side, but the pressure is on. Everybody is going to try and get themselves all the way to that Booyah. But will it be possible? Now, Roro goes down up to Meta and Charles to see can they maybe pick up the pieces, but Nemjugo just looking to apply quite a bit of pressure here. I like the fact that they are still just holding on to the compound, right? Not really relinquishing too much of that control, but will that possession work out in their favor? Because there's still so much opposition left to push through.
And 4 teams are fighting with everything that they do have in the back pocket right now. Charles and Meta taking massive damage. Meta just about eliminated, and he is going to get taken out at 4th place. And now Nemjugo, SLF, and as well as Paradox are going to be fighting for the Bua right over here. SLF takes a bit of damage, 1 player knocked, revive possible as they do take breathers. Some of the Kobe throws on the grenades are connecting onto Nemjugo. SLF Macatech actually do quite well in terms of damage, putting pressure onto Paradox. And this is a 3-way split for Victory Royale. Every team quite healthy with members. Numbers are in favor for each of them. It just comes down to who has the better RNG on that final zone rotate as we're moving from 7 to 8 in just a moment. Who has more utilities if this does come down to a heal off in their position right over there. So right now, compound to compound, each player is looking quite comfortable. You got Nemjugo on height off that compound, Paradox on the low, and then SLF controlling everything from the outside. Paradox trying to make a rotate out. NJ takes a bit of a knock on the player. Paradox also gets an elimination down to 3 teams, 11 players, and right now just dealing across the board is sneaky doing that. Nemjugo. And look at SLF losing 2 of their players in that rotate, in that final moments.
I thought for Soliflare it was a pretty decent position being outside as opposed to inside the compound, but it does seem like Nemjugo definitely bringing quite a bit of heat here alongside Paradox. But we are down to the final showdown. It is going to be Nemjugo contesting for a back-to-back booyah as Paradox looks to lock it down. One of the strong contenders coming through here. Of course, 6 points separating both these teams coming into the second game. But who's going to be the one to rise to the top? It is going to be Paradox now, trying everything they can. They still have all 4 players up, and it is a very even assault. But Paradox gets the booyah in the bag. Nemjugo getting robbed of that back-to-back victory. But what a bounce back that has been here for Paradox. And I mean, this is what we love to see, right? So much pressure getting applied across these games.
Yeah, no, definitely. We saw like game one, the fan favorites was Paradox. Finally, they come in, they show exactly what they're capable of, and we get to see and witness what the fans were talking about in that comment section. So Paradox coming in with that booyah, and you talked about how much momentum they had. They had 8 eliminations, they looked aggressive, they're pushing onto teams in different compounds, then they didn't hesitate in the eliminations that they picked up towards that end game over there. And I think that confidence, that momentum that they had, it just synced so well to win that game against Nomjugo. Nomjugo looked quite well. 2 players unfortunately just got knocked down, and the numbers was against them, and eventually they did get eliminated. SLF making it to that very end, 3rd place position. They also played it quite well. You know, we saw them towards the end of zone waiting for the players to die down, and it was 7, eventually it was 4, and then they died out at 3rd. And that's some good placement points that they managed to secure in for themselves as well, but also 8 eliminations across the board. So they're looking quite healthy in terms of points, but we're going to have to wait and see exactly where they're sitting now with that additional points. Where's Paradox coming into play, but Nomjugo very consistent at 1st and the 2nd. I don't know what's going to stop this team, but we're going to have to wait and see exactly what Game 3 has entailed for us. What would it tell for us? Let's see exactly while we take this short little bit of a break.
They can, but of course we have a few new faces on the map as well. So I want to see what all these new squads are going to be bringing into the Carnage.
Coming up from him, teammate is going to be able to support over there. Lots of blue wall between the players right now, and a fight action happening right over here. But both players go down.
Launched up and flying on forward. Oof. Actually moving away from zone. That is a very interesting tactic coming from the front.
Those kill points is very important, especially at the early stages. It just helps with concentration on placement points. Going in with the that does connect, big damage, and a big knock coming out from Ligon there. So right now, things are pretty much okay for KN. You already see Shido's back in action. Looks to take big damage, and this is revenge moments here for Shido.
5, so Pharaoh apparently number 7. They're keeping with that trend, but damage. We see whether or not Shadow 1 can survive this. 3 is there to provide a little bit of that backup, that support. But it is quite a bit of...
It has been brought back, but it is under pressure from Paradox right now. We've got a 3v1 situation over again. I think it's just about to get knocked yet again, and a buyback.
Factory, as it is going to be Turbo and the rest of the crew trying to fight their way out of this, and it is pressure.
So it's very important to see such a strong team get taken out down to 19s as it stands right here. And we got action in the shots coming out from him over there, managing to connect at distance. Snipers to maybe, feel exactly what he's capable of. And so Silverton is doing exactly utility to sort of find some time without getting noticed. We got Dixon who's also quite aware, but
I know, keep that torch alive. Ultimate also just on the edge here. A lot of pressure with 8 eliminations. If they can get the booyah in the back, being super sneaky about it, gets a beautiful trade-off. 1 down, a few more to go. Not quite out of the woods, but up comes the surprise on that lower position. But that zone is going to be moving a little bit more towards the east. Dragon, as you pointed out, finding themselves in quite a bit of a predicament. So much so. But it is an absolute assault here as Nem just keeps on applying aggression all across the board. Amara is...
I think that's the most important. When you're looking at just placement points alone, and good start over here.
It's all going to be up to Paradox to see how they can get their position started over here in ski launches. They do find another little cheeky trade on
CP0 United. They could get eliminated quite early, right? So we are going into game number 3. We just witnessed game 1 and 2 with Booyahs coming from two different teams. I think the consistency and momentum is now favoring Paradox if they're going into this game with the same mindset that they just delivered in game number 2. But the question that I have for you, DK, what's worse? The back-to-back potential for game number 2, does that affect their mindset going into number 3? Does that play a role in how they're going to play in game 3? Because that could upset you. We almost had that back-to-back win. Does that affect momentum for game number 3 for Nemjugo?
I don't think it's going to affect them too much, right? Because looking at how they played coming into game number 2, right? They had a little bit of a bumpy start, but that's to be expected, right? You've got those recalls, you can bring pretty much the rest of the team back on their feet. But based on what we've been seeing so far, I don't think that it's going to deter them too much, right? I'm pretty sure that they're going to go like, you know what? Yeah, sure, we didn't get game number 2, but now we're going to gun for the game number 3. We're going to try and lock it in. And you got to commend that kind of consistency or that kind of mentality that these teams bring on forward. But in the same breath, I want to see teams that could potentially play an upset, right? Look to bring it in here. And of course, in case you missed what the scores looked like after the first match, here is just a quick reminder of where all our teams were situated, right? We had Nemjugo coming in with those 23 points after match number 1 with Dragons just strong hot on their heels. But the update takes a little bit of a different swing, right? Paradox jumping from 4th all the way up into 1st. Nemjugo getting moved down a little bit and everybody else kind of just going along with that. But I'm a little bit worried about one squad.
And that's
FreeFire, right? Or as we know them as HT as we see them in the game, right? They've got 11 points. The previous season they won. So whatever they're going to do, they got to get going because the clock is ticking. We're already in match number 3. We're running out of time. So if they want to contest for that pole position again, they're going to have to bring that heat, bring everything they can. And of course, a very good flight path to start us off with, right? The players have really decent access to a big majority of the zone. I'm curious as to who's going to be going all the way up into Snowfall.
Yeah, let's see exactly where players are going to be positioned around Alpine. So that's the map that we're going to be utilizing for game number 3. And then we're just going to recycle the 3 maps that we have. So everything that we've witnessed so far could absolutely change in a moment's time. So right now, as things stand, we do got Dragons going to Snowfall. I think there was a little bit of a contestant coming out. Paradox, however, at the bridge going up against Free2Fire. Or what? Fire to Fire?
Free2Fire.
Free2Fire. And right now, Paradox taking a bit of damage. Then Rico goes down over here. And it is looking quite competitive as the players are coming in for their confirmations. Right now, as things stand, that bridge was really contested in an off-spawn position. It's also quite awkward position to find yourself contesting, but it does look like that was actually the case right over there. Just Strong also looking to come in. As you can see, Kuro push Paradox all the way up into that POI, and the distance comes in. You got Born to Die, Rip, and RN Absolute. I wonder who's this right over here, DK.
I'm sure that's PM Os Malucos, right?
If you know, you know. That's all I gotta say.
That's it. If you said it. I don't know what the WUN stands for, right? When you know. If you know, you know. When you know. There we go. Maybe. I don't know.
Nemjugo consistency. I don't know. When it comes, the reason why I did ask you that question earlier on, if failing to get the back-to-back does play a huge role in momentum for game number 3. When you're in that flow state and you're so confident that everything's working, you're getting those eliminations, your placement's perfect in positioning, everything's working in favor for you. So now your entire team's locked in, communication's perfect. But the moment you don't win that game, you sort of take a breather, and that black space that's around you when you're locked in, when you're in that flow space, you see again exactly what's around you, where you're at, you're in your room, you're playing the game, and suddenly out of that flow state. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but sometimes for me it does. When you're in that flow state, you get those eliminations, and suddenly you're going up against someone, you're playing it so perfectly to the T, and suddenly you get eliminated, and what is around you comes back to life, and you can't touch that same momentum style going into the rest of the games. Has that ever happened to you? Because that has to me. And I wonder if Mjugo has the experience behind to actually stay consistent in game number 3.
I think the one thing is not only necessarily getting into that flow state, but being able to get back into it, right? That is the challenging bit, right? Because, I mean, it's awesome when it hits, but as you've said, right, sometimes things happen and you just get taken out of it. But now the challenging bit is getting your butt back in there and, you know, get back in the kitchen, get cooking, show us what you can do. So hopefully, of course, as I've said, I don't think they're going to be too deterred from, you know, replicating those efforts yet again. But yeah, it all depends on what the mentality is, right? What is the brain saying at that particular point? Of course, we've got some land sharks running around. I've seen sand sharks, but I've never seen land sharks. Now I can say that I have, as we just witnessed one on screen right there. Now in the meantime, it is going to be the Dragons coming in with a beautiful jump shot as Simon or Simo goes with the Ultimo, gets over the top there and takes even more players on down. Meanwhile, it is a little bit of a mixed bag of plays over on the opposite end here with CPO making their way on through. They do have a little bit of pressure alongside them. Not too much to handle just yet. But let's see. Maybe we can see a bit of a rise up from their side.
No, well, it all depends. Right now, however, word is 11 teams exist in game number 3, and the team to actually get eliminated so early on is Vent. So unfortunately, they're going to be taken out. You got CP04VN, who has now been knocked. I think an easy revive can come out of there, but TU goes in outside the compound to try to pick up eliminations, and right now it's tagged left and right as the players jump in the buildings in and out. And I think Dragon is actually finding himself a difficult combat right over here. It's 4VN who's left alone alive, and a team wipe could potentially come into play, and that's exactly what's going to happen for them. CP0 getting taken out, and that is the 11th team that is eliminated right now.
But so one thing that I like, so this is just what's funny to me, if CPO has only, if they lose one of their teammates, just one, right? They can keep 3 out. We can then call them 3 CPO, right? Because that's all of them.
That's all of them.
Sorry, a little bit of a reference, whatever. That just popped into my head. I thought I had to share, and I can hear my own eyes rolling back because that was epic. Anyway. So we are going to be looking at the rest of the teams now. I mean, I'm pretty excited to see what's going to be happening here, right? Because you've been talking about that mentality, looking at whether or not teams can keep themselves motivated to keep that aggression flowing.
Yeah.
For the time being, everybody's just big chilling, right? Waiting to see what the zone's going to do, whether or not their position's going to hold up. You know, is it going to take them to that next position? But one team that I'm curious to see what their approach is, and I'm not quite sure if the CPO is still in the match, whether they can still go about it, is to actually see whether or not they're going to look to go, you know, just crazy, like bring everything and just throw everything they can at the wall and to see what sticks, right? Because they've got 5 points coming into this match. So if there's any team that can just go absolutely ham, it would be them. If they've already been taken out, game number next, right? That's where I want to see it. But speaking about next, it's going to be just strong, getting strong-armed back into a potential, well, situation, because we just saw them getting taken down.
We did see that happen, and Dragon is sitting on 8 eliminations already. The thing about Alpine is you can't be in the same POI. Paradox seem to be struggling a little bit right over there. You got Negon who's been taken out, Luffy just about knocked, and confirmed Saitama and Turbo now left alone as a duo going up against Dragon, and C-Mark's looking quite confident, but more confident on the other side of things. It's Saitama going in with the one punch. Will he be able to get it as he moves in between the glue walls? But right now for C-Mox, he's now turning things around, but Luffy comes in for support, and it's a 2v1 situation, so the numbers against C-Mox is not too good, and a glue wall gets placed down too late, and the entire FreeFire team is back and alive, as well as Paradox coming in with 3 of their players who are now rotating into the thing. We got Diddy, who's going in for a sneaky attack right over here onto the opposition player. Will he be able to get some shots in there? And that's just a revived player, a rebooted player. So load up utility is not in favor for him. It does have that one weapon to utilize. Who comes out on top? It is definitely Diddy with the advantage. Will he be able to strong on him and take him back into the lobby? He doesn't do it. Unfortunately, he gets eliminated, but his teammate is right here to get him support, and I think there's the buyback happening, and Diddy gets back. Embarrassing moment, but still, Nomjugo get to continue fighting towards the end game right away. And 9 teams remain. There's a lot of eliminations across the board here.
Yeah, I mean, Sneaky got sneaky and then got snuck, and then bam, right? And that's all they wrote for the time being. Meanwhile, it's going to be the Amigos getting a little bit of that positioning going.
Finally.
Very close to the edge of zone. Yeah, I want to see them, push even more because, I mean, they played well in the previous season. Now I want to see them be even stronger in this 3rd season. And looking at the zone, that's what more could you ask for, right? There's nobody in their immediate area. But if they zip across those zip lines, they are going to find themselves in a bit of a situation. So we'll see how that one plays out for them. Meanwhile, Nomjugo also trying to make a little bit of that magic happen over here. And that is going to be Paradox with a bit of a psych out there as Alta-K comes through, gets the hit. That is 1 down. Now let's see if the rest are going to follow suit, or maybe we see Nomjugo get the jump in on Paradox.
Well, Diddy coming in over here, I don't think is the right move. He's a solo. We did see him Bosch previously up against the other player. He just went up against Sneaky. So L2K boxed up right now with the glue walls, and he's found himself in a good position right over there. You got Dante's coming in behind Diddy. Solo Sin also coming in. So now confidently I can say Diddy can push into the upper building right over here to try take out L2K. Danrike on the other side of things, he's out of this compound, so he can get the buybacks. But right now L2K going up against a full team, there's just no chance of him winning whatsoever. I don't know if Denrique was in that because we're down to 7 teams. No, he is separated from everyone else.
Yeah, that's not the kind of spot that you want to find yourself in, but let's see what is going to be happening here as, fire to fire. You fight fire with fire in Free Fire. So let's see who's going to be the one to get that ball going. Oh, Dante's getting beautiful surprise play coming through here from Turbo. But is that going to be enough, though, for them to continue on this rampage? 12 eliminations up already.
Wow.
A really, really good bounce back from them. Up comes Snipe, though, and the rest of Nomjugo. As you can see, it's now up to Diddy to see just how long they can survive. Out in the danger zone, not the best place to be. As Snipe is also trying to play a little bit of tank here. Not quite sure that's the right game, but hey, you know what? You do you. Let's see who's going to be the ones to claim the final few zones. Who's going to be the ones to plant their flags and walk away with that booyah?
Yeah, a lot of teams are doing so well here, farming that kill points. And that's exactly what Alpine's all about. It's fast rotations to make sure that you are taking eliminations on the position that you find your positions in. I don't know if that makes sense, but DK, I hope you understand. But anyways, moving into this Dragons 10 eliminations. You got Fire to Fire with 12 eliminations. Amigos with 7. We're seeing some of the teams that really haven't had a say in Season 3, but now are starting to speak out loud in terms of their performances. I just hope it's not a one-hit wonder for game number 3. And when we reset back to Bermuda, is that they're going to find themselves struggling once more. So let's see exactly. Also, we haven't seen so much of Knights in game number 2, but they are alive. 4 eliminations to their name. And I think, they can continue. They are hugging that zone, making those late rotates. And that also is a strategy that we saw from SLF in the previous game that worked for them quite well. So let's see if, Knights can take advantage of late rotates. And I think they find themselves in a okay position. Amigos taking some long distance shots, and look at that, get the confirmation, get the kill point. And I think it's just going to come in moments time.
Yeah, that's where the Knights, as we saw them rotating up, needs to be cautious because they might be rotating right into the Dragon's Den. So there's a bit of an opportunity here if they just wait for that play, keep that rotation concise. But I like what Amigos are doing here is applying all the pressure onto the edge. That, of course, now is going to be drawing a lot of the attention from the Dragons as they look to poke and prod their way on through. Fortunately for the Knights, there's a big rock in the way, so the Dragons don't have a clear, concise angle on them just yet. But with 5 squads left, it is going to be still a very risky play, especially looking at Knights, because they are one of only 2 teams that are yet to find a good position moving into this next phase. Now all the walls coming out as they look to kind of stick their way through it, trying to push further forward.
Yeah.
But they got to watch out onto that eastern side, because there's still one player that I think might have a beautiful lineup on them.
Well, it's tough to say exactly what could potentially play out for that team as Knights is hugging that zone rotate right over there. And on the other side of things, Fire to Fire looking good, Amigos looking good. I don't see NJ in the top 5 teams.
Yeah,
No.
Maybe.
Yeah, they've been eliminated. In my opinion, I think they've been sent back to the lobby. And maybe that flow state is non-existent for game number 3. But you said it's possible to still get back into that flow state. I personally find it so difficult, and I lose my momentum. Once I'm out, and it just so much energy gets taken in that moment over there. But this is no Jugo. I've seen them season in season, years and years of competing. But also, this is different, maybe potential players that are coming into the setting for them Jugo as a team itself. Right now, you've got King going in with revives. Knights looking quite good. Turbo needing a revive on his side of things, which is happening right now. And Fire to Fire is in a good position in terms of eliminations. Just look at that. We might be able to see our first 20 kill point come out from this. Incitement picking up a kill, but he gets reverted back in terms of damage, and he gets knocked as well. CMOX taking a bit of damage. They sit on 10 eliminations. We're down to 16 teams, 16 players, 4 teams across the board over here. Who's going to come out on top? Dragon going in quite aggressively right over there, picking up some eliminations as well, and that's really good for this team right now. 12 kills across the board. Knights Esports finds himself into the zone and keeps rotating late over here, going in, putting pressure with those grenades, and then find themselves rotating. But Dragon will be a furious, I don't know the word I was trying to use right over there, but yeah, they're going to be a challenging opposition to go up against.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Knight out there sipping on some of that tickle juice. It's not the best place to be. You got to try and get out of that. And of course, they pay the ultimate price there as they lose quite a few of their players, but it's not all downhill just yet. The Dragons still rocking a 3-piece, held in a beautiful position here. The Amigos now going for a beautiful 2-2 split, so that could actually buy them quite a bit of an opportunity as that zone is going to start shifting. And I'm looking at the Amigos here. They have the setup, they have the lineup, but now they've got to lock it down. They know that the other squads are going to have to rotate in their direction. So if ever they had a time to do anything, now is it.
Well, let's see exactly what happens over here as Dragons do take out the 3rd team, Fire to Fire right over there. They look quite strong. A finished 3rd, I think, is quite well for game number 3. But now it's Amigos going up against Dragons, and who's going to come out on top over here? This would be a good comeback also for Amigos, who are sitting at the second half of that leaderboard right over there. Dragons on the other side of things, CMOX taking massive damage now is knocked, and Amigos looking ever so confident in terms of numbers right over here. And a Remind is going in with movement and is the only player left alive for him, and he is going to be taken out. And the booyah coming out from Amigos, and a well-deserved win. Great position to find them in that area, and they just controlled it like he said they would to get that booyah in game number 3.
Yes, sir. They said, andale, andale, arriba. And the Amigos stepped up. They got the job done. And of course, walking away with 15 eliminations. Absolutely amazing stuff to see here. But there we go. Nemjugo, they went out in 6th place with 4 eliminations to their name. I don't think they're going to be all too stressed because it was a very tough match to play through. But of course, as we get into the next few games, that is where things could definitely start to take quite a bit of a turn. But looking at the top end of it, right, they're very heavy with regards to those eliminations. The team's bringing all the heat they can find. And I like this, right? It is not sealed and not confirmed yet. Any team still has the opportunity to step up and blow the competition out of the water.
Yeah, Namjugo out, Paradox out quite early in that end game rotates for game number 3. So this definitely is going to bring a shuffle to that leaderboard, but we can only see what that shuffle is going to look like when we take a little bit of a short break to set up game number 4 and step into the second half of the grand finale to determine who will be the champions. Guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more action. The first half of ACGL Season 3 Free Fire has just ended. That is the game 1 to game number 3. We've had 3 different teams, and I think for Amigos, a bit of applause going into them because they did quite well in that Alpine map. Alpine, very aggressive. We saw that, DK. You know, there was just so much action from the get-go, and I don't think we took a breather. We managed to, just chat among each other. What does that mean for the leaderboard? It means Dragons are now in first place position with 58, Paradox in second with 53, Namjugo not far behind with 51, and that goes to Amigos, who are now in that top 5 position with 36 points. When we looked at them previously, they were sitting about 9th or 10th in after game number 2. So big jump, and also a big jump for Fire to Fire. They were also struggling in that area over there. Vent Esports not looking too strong. CP0 United not looking too strong. Those are the teams that now can, what happens in the first half can happen in the second half. They need to now come in with those points right over there.
Yeah, and of course we did see quite a bit of a gap between that 3rd and 4th place, right? It was 38 and 51, so that is a decent amount of points. If I have to do the math, obviously I think the answer is 13, but we'll go with that. A decent amount of points is what is needed to try and catch up. And the scary thing is the prize money is only in the top 3, right? So if you want to share, you're going to have to bring the heat. You have to double down and go out there and gobble up as many points as you can, especially seeing that we're moving into the latter half of the action here today, right? So whatever you haven't been able to do in the first 3 games, the last 3 games is that opportunity, right? So if you want to get aggressive and go fight Fire to Fire, or you want to go fight Amigos or Dragons, or, pick your event, go out and go do it, because this is that opportunity, and time is running out.
Time is definitely running out. And you know what? We're repeating the same 3 games. So what you just said is hands down what the strategy should be for game 4, 5, and 6. What didn't work in game number 1 can work now in game number 4. So, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. Let's just get into better strategies for the next 3 games that will work for you to get that booyah position. Nomjugo did win game number 1. This is the same map that they're going to be playing for game number 4. Will they be able to bring that same playstyle that did guarantee them that victory? Again, Battle Royale, the nice thing about it, there's no repeat of an event that could potentially happen in maybe 200 games. Zone rotates are different, positioning are different. Your loadout that you pick up is different. So there's just so much RNG. And RNG, for those of you guys don't know, it's like your luck that goes into the game. And right now, Nomjugo did come through with a beautiful Booyah game number 1. I don't know if they will be able to repeat that same instance for game number 4, because it's just going to be a different storytelling, different commentary from myself and DK. And I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what will come in from game number 4. Already getting some knockdowns. Luffy has been taken out. That's going to be a good elimination point to Vent Esports, who are actually struggling in the season 3 right over here. Fire to Fire might potentially be eliminated of Spawn right over here, as 2 of the players have been taken down. Negan just about to follow through with an elimination also there. And the split drop maybe kind of worked in favor for them, because Fire to Fire's final player is not at a factory, and that allows him to then get a buyback at a later stage, just if he doesn't run into any other opposition player. He's at Mars Electric as a solo.
Wow, that's out of this world.
Literally, from where the team landed to where he is, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, here we go, jumping over to the players from PM, as they are down to PLX. So we are throwing the whole alphabet at them here. Let's see. Can PLX maybe get some loot here? Because being empty-handed, that is probably the worst thing that can happen to you in a Battle Royale game, right? You need something. Otherwise, it's super, super challenging. Speaking about challenging, though, it is going to be Berserk Generation now getting put under fire here as the land shark comes swimming up to them. Meta gets taken on down. Let's see whether or not that is... Who's the last one over there? The name goes by so quickly. That's Charles. No, Charles! Down they go. It might have been. I mean, it is not yet, right? We still have all 12 in this lobby. In the meanwhile, Vent, they are looking to get a nice and aggressive here as they're pushing up on the players here from the Knights. You can see all the sheds just strewn throughout the place. Aparo is apparently still not in the shed, right? We've got 3 sheds and then Aparo. So the hits now locking on in as layoff, layout, Liot. This player here from Vent is going to lay down as the shots come through. They get knocked right on down, and Timmy coming in for the rescue.
Yeah, Timmy getting that revive is going to be crucial. But Shido right now left alone for Night Esports in this area right over here. 2v1 situation building up and just about to get eliminated as Lei goes ahead into the same position, picks him up on that window elimination. But Shido somehow still alive with so many players around him and eventually gets taken down. But it is going to be a knock, which means his team is somewhere still alive. So that's really, really good for some buyback opportunity. We had 44 players alive in the map, so there's still opportunity across the board. And we looked at Shido struggling. He's already back into the map, so we had 45. NJ, game 1 victors. Will they be able to repeat a similar scenario in a repeat map for game number 4? We're going to have to wait and see exactly what comes out of that. Just Esports sitting on 4 eliminations, which is a really good start to game number 4. And I think maybe also just a turning point for momentum going into the second half of the series.
I did see that someone used binoculars, right? So are those wind-up binoculars that you have to crank to get them to work, or do they come with scales? Oh, speaking about scales, that was a cheeky hit by L2K as they take down a little bit of a play there. Meanwhile, the Amigos getting ready to get the ball flying here as they just put down every wall they have in their package here. As Matsuke is about to get brought back onto their feet, but now they got to run because that Zorn is going to be nipping at their heels. Nitro now trying to neutralize the opposition as they get themselves situated alongside the players here from Just Strong, but that is what they could expect to see. Just strong defense as both squads still need to get in zone.
Yeah, both squads still need to get into zone. That puts a little bit of pressure. You know, you're not only focusing on shots that are dealing damage to you. The zone is also dealing damage to you, and that's momentarily just adding to all the pressure over here. But we got players utilizing healing. You know, they have the utilities in the back pocket. For now, it's just 1 tick per second, if I'm not mistaken, at this zone rate. So they can stay in here for quite some time. Some of them have 11 utilities to use to kill. So going up against Kiro and them are going to be, you know, it's a long battle here in the zone. The question is, can Amigos survive this battle and continue with that momentum from game number 3, in which, you know, they're standing winners as we go into game number 4. So back-to-back Booyah right over here can really change things for them. But Mutsuki or Mutsuki, or however you'd like to say it, gets eliminated, confirmed, and that brings now the player down in terms of where they are. But a buyback immediately happens here deep in the zone. So they back at that 4-player count and continue fighting right over here. Himix, however, is going to get taken down. Nitro also gets traded, and that's some good elimination. It's a 3-way fight, by the way, that we have right over here.
I mean, if there's any place to lock in, I would say probably Bullseye is the best place to do it, because the name says it all, right? That is exactly where you need to bring in everything you can. We do see a few more elims going through as the players are getting eliminated slowly, but it is now up to the players here from the Knights to see if they can catch up to the Amigos by just scrolling their way back into somewhere. I'm not quite sure which way they're running, because I'm pretty sure the zone's the other way, but off they go as we hit phase number 2. Oh, we did see Kero up ahead of them. Dante and the rest of the players also making their way on through now. It is going to be Paradox getting a little bit of that pressure on Berserk Generation. Sneaky doing the thing what the name says as they get to play onto Charles. The 1 down, 6 eliminations up already. Can they get the confirmation? Well, the answer is yes. There goes Charles. 7 elims up. Now pressure starting to build yet again as Vent are going to get pushed upon right here on the edge of zone. And it is just pressure all over the place. I mean, Fire to Fire looking to lock down as best they can.
I think they're doing quite well in terms of comeback story. I mean, they pushed now into that second half of that leaderboard, and they finished really strong in Alpine map. And I think, you know, maybe for them, close combat is what works best for them. We did see Fire to Fire in Bermuda also game number 1 really show some good gun skill, getting those eliminations. I don't know what happened with them in game number 1 to find them getting eliminated. On the other side of things, Amar taking a bit of damage. He is knocked. I don't know if a revive can happen as Rising also joins him up there. It's down to Hero and as well as he makes to do the most, but the entire 3 players that were in this fight against Knight Esports have been taken out, and that is all down to 1 player to get that buyback. We're down to 8 teams, however, Amigos now on the rotate over here, 4 eliminations for them. The Booyah victors, Hero left alone as a solo. I don't think a buyback is going to be potential because it's now 1v4 situation, and Hero's just about to get eliminated right over here and sent back to the lobby as we are down to 7 teams. And if you thought you were safe, you're not. Amigos comes in, cleans it up, and sends your team back to the lobby.
Yeah, it's very exciting how this is all panning out here, but of course, all the teams fighting outside the safe zone and not so much in the zone. So a very interesting shift in the dynamic here. But I mean, of course, this opens up quite a bit of opportunity for the teams already well situated within it, right? Paradox just here, just on the edge. They can see the Amigos now also looking to try and get themselves situated. Beautiful opportunity here by Sneaky, but you got to watch that health bar because the edge of Zord is going to look to tank quite a bit of HP here.
It is, and getting into that zone while pressured by everyone else is also quite tough. Amigos have also just somehow survived a lot of the time in that deep zone. Sneaky getting eliminated over here. L2K looking back for support. and dealing a little bit of damage to Amigos. This is going to put a little bit of pressure onto Amigos because of the natural height position Paradox finds themselves in. But against numbers, they are advantageous. Woodson taking a bit of damage, does need to heal up. Will he be able to get that? Sneaky already revived them back into fighting position. Danrike comes in with a bit of a clutch onto neutral, taking him out. Woodson also knocked. Syrup and Mutsuki now need to run and disengage from this situation. The question is, will Paradox allow the Booyah team to do that? Let's see exactly if that happens. It does look like a full run coming out from Syrup as he tries to get away from Paradox.
Well, let's see if Syrup's got that medicine. Unfortunately, the answer is no. L2K locks it in, and 11 eliminations for Paradox. But now the hard part comes for them. They have to run all the way to the safe zone. In the meantime, if we look over on towards this western side, it is going to be the players here from Fire to Fire. And of course, the Berserk generation getting ready for a bit of an altercation. Both teams trying to get themselves set up here, but Peak is going to come in absolutely clutch as there's quite a few angles for these squads to have their eyes on. And of course, the surprises can come in from any which direction. Horo High out on the edge, got to get spotted. Negan and the rest of the team now looks to react very quickly, because I think here, if Berserk generation is given too much an opportunity, Fire to Fire might be put on quite a bit of a back foot.
And it does look like the read coming out from Fire to Fire that the team is moving momentarily away from each other. As you can see, sort of some separation comes into play, but the movement to push behind was a bit too late in my opinion. Crack does look like he is having network issues. It could have been a perfect opportunity to take advantage of that, but he is coming back into the game as you are seeing some movement finally clicking into play. Roro High, Crack Meta, Charles taking a bit of damage across, but now managing to heal up and get those utilities back in. Crack still in the zone, stuck right over there. I think network issues is definitely getting the better chokehold of him, and you can see that definitely happening. Charles now gets eliminated over there, and that's a really good control coming out from that team right over there. Why do we got so many Shidos suddenly?
Yeah, no, they're just multiplying, right? If you leave them in the lobby too long, the numbers just start to grow. We had a 1-3-5. Now that 5 has turned into a 2, so there's a little bit of a morphing happening here as well. But speaking about morphing, it's going to be the Knights now looking to get right into the business end of the altercation as they push up on the Berserk generation crew. Will they get the hits? Low Meta goes down, so that is Shed now looking to shed up the carnage, as it is quite a sticky situation they find themselves in. But look at Paradox, 11 eliminations strong, still looking to lock in more. I'm not quite sure if Berserk is going to be able to get themselves out of that uncomfortable angle there.
I don't think it's going to be possible with just so much focus coming out from Paradox, and they have a full control over 2-3 teams of the teams that need to now rotate into the safe zone. You can see Cedo 1 and Cedo 3 just healing using utilities in the deep zone, but then Paradox also then gatekeeping the safe zone. So very difficult to see exactly what will come out from that team. On the other side of things, Fire to Fire managed to also get into better positioning. That does help them slightly when that zone starts to shrink. SLF still alive, keeping up with 2 teams. NJ showing consistency in terms of map playstyle, where they find themselves in the top 5 teams. Paradox, however, have the momentum yet again for game number 4 right over here. 12 eliminations at hand. Fire to Fire sitting on 9. So the question is, who's going to come out with the booyah as these players now try to find some positioning in a safe zone? And just so much damage across the board with, the Fire coming in and dealing that over there. Ragnar down to little HP, and I think just about eliminated, as he has to go deep in zone to run away from NJ, as they are positioned on an insane place right over here. Just look at this bird's eye view over everyone else.
I mean, that is prime real estate right there. So Nemjugo, yep, they coming back strong. Do they have insane eliminations? Not necessarily, but they are going to look to do the most with what they have available to them. In the meanwhile, it is going to be Paradox still riding the edge of zone here, as they are in quite a bit of a tussle. Sneaky jumping, trying everything they can to get those hits in, to deploy those walls. But unfortunately, things are looking to go downhill here, as Paradox now down to a solo. Ooh, beautiful rush though. Henrico
Oh.
not being able to survive, and that is absolute brutality as the shots just lock on in. Bing, bang, boom, off they go. Now, Nemjugo, this is their opportunity to get that second booyah for the day. As you can see, they are now just expanding as much they can, and there's only one player standing between them and that booyah.
Man, just talk about two team wipes to go advantageous for Namjugo. I mean, they didn't even need to do much to get this booyah. Ragnar, ratted it out quite well. And we saw that vehicle go into that fighting position as well and just get a little bit of a bumper. Right now, it is Ragnar, 1v4 situation, gets one knock over, kind of get some kill points while doing that. He does manage to get that confirmation coming into play. But the booyah, nonetheless, comes through for Namjugo, and that is the second win over here. The only map that they are able to grab the booyahs is Bermuda, and it's actually working in favor for them. Was it a crazy momentum game for them? No, it is the positioning that they find themselves in that put them at an advantage against everyone else, and I think that's what's making them work here in Bermuda. Look at that, only 4 kills across the entire game. And SLF5, we can understand a single rat player going in for that second place position. Fire to Fire and Paradox, on the other side of things, they went in aggressive throughout the entire lobby to pick up those eliminations. And we can see who were the shortfalls in the off-spawn situation. We got so much of the teams that were doing okay getting eliminated quite early.
Yeah, I mean, that is very interesting to see. But, one thing that I was hoping to see coming into this match was for its squad to come in with a 2000 IQ play, right?
Yeah.
Nemjugo, they did that. Getting up onto that high ground, that was kind of the part that sealed their fate, right? They knew that this is going to help just elevate their gameplay, no pun intended on that, but it just took them to another level. And so far, well, they've been doing a phenomenal job, but the hard work is not done. We still have 2 more maps to go here.
Yeah, definitely 2 more maps. I think the final moments that will start to determine where we're going in terms of that prize pool split, who will be the champion. But to get into those final 2 games, we got to take a little bit of a short break, and we'll chat a little bit more on what just happened. We're back for the second last game of ACGL Season 3 Free Fire, and I have to say the teams have definitely brought the fire to the competition. I mean, we're looking at Nomjugo finally picking up the second Booyah, and that comes with the same map that they started in with a Booyah in. Now, coming into this one over here, Amigos, I think, was probably my saddest fallout when it comes down to eliminations on a team. They were looking quite strong game 3 and 4, but unfortunately towards 4, they did die out at 7th, and that means they're going to fall down on that leaderboard.
Yeah, and the leaderboard is where you want to be, right? You want to try and get yourself where Fire to Fire and the others are, right in that 1st to 3rd place. But you got to commend Fire to Fire what they've done, right? They've jumped all the way from 6 all there into English 3rd place, as they've now just swapped places with a few other squads ahead of them. Dragons, we didn't see much from them in this previous match, so maybe they'll make a bit of a comeback as we head into game number next. But yeah, at least everybody, from what we can see, aside from Dragons, of course, have added points to their overall tally, right? Even CPO, they started off the match with 5. They now have doubled their points, right? They've got 10. Double the amount. That's insane. But we want to see what the teams are going to bring through as we head into our final rotations of course, Purgatory, as we'll be heading into that very, very soon to see exactly who will be the team to claim their stake, whatever you want to call it, for that second to last Booyah. But I like where this is kind of going, like Fire to Fire, really lighting a fire under themselves, coming through with quite a bit of a comeback story. And if they continue with that same kind of pacing, there is a good chance that we could see a bit of a change when it comes to who's going to be sitting at the top of the board.
Yeah, exactly. Paradox is not secured for this win. We saw Fire to Fire going into 3rd game at 7th position, now sitting in 3rd. That shows the consistency that has been played over the last 3 games for them. Game 3, 4, 5, which we're about to go into right now, is looking ever more favorable for them. Now, will they be able to come through with consistency, or is it going to burn out? Is the fire going to come out and burn them eventually? We'll have to see what that's going to look like. But Nomjugo, they've stayed in that podium slot through game number 1 and haven't gotten out of it yet. Yes, they've moved from 1st to 3rd and now 2nd. They can still fight their way back to the top. But we're talking about how placement points is crucial, but the meta is definitely rewarding towards those eliminations, and Paradox is taking full advantage of the buybacks and getting as much eliminations as possible towards that endgame.
Well, I am noting that there is only 11 squads loading into this lobby. Ooh, that is an interesting situation. But in the meantime, we'll see where everybody's going to look to get themselves situated. Of course, some early strikes coming through here. As you can see, it is just raining down chaos. And of course, Forge seems to be the place where all of this is happening. It's Paradox. It is Amigos currently just holding up. Well, we see Amigos maybe get something here.
They can. It does look like they're in a good position. These are now just, doing Matrix right over there on the wall and hovering this guy. But Nitro right now could have the sneak attack onto Paradox. Sneaky. And it doesn't look like he's aware of Sneaky going out of that building. A bit of damage coming across in that kill feed for VT, so that's looking quite nice. Then Rika takes big damage. He finds himself at 50% HP. Will he be able to survive? Luxon also takes massive damage. But in terms of the numbers game, this is a full 4v4 on a POI. We haven't really necessarily got to witness that coming in an Osborne situation. This is Paradox, who's in the 1st place slot. Amigos, who's on a fighting for a comeback position. Who's going to come out on top here in an Osborne POI? You can see those pre-fires trying to come into play. Sneaky taking a bit of damage. But who comes out right now is L2K, comes from behind, picks up a knock over there. The numbers now push over to Mutsiki and as well as Luxon, as they now need to disengage from this combat arena, and taking massive damage is going to be the teams right up there. Syrup and Neutral out, but Suki also finds himself getting knocked, and Luxon going to be on the run. But it's a full Paradox 4v1, and Luxon is just about dead. GG's to Amigos. I think they're going to be the first. Not even the first. We've lost 3 teams in an off spawn.
Yeah. Like, it is absolute brutality. The teams here, Arrow, they came in and they all chose Carnage, right? They chose Violence. That's what they want to bring into the second to last match here of the day and of the event. But let's see whether or not CPO is going to be able to play a bit of an upset here. Of course, making their way through Quarry, rather. As you can see, the players there from Nimjugo just up ahead of them, or rather behind them, as 2 gets taken on down. 1 down to go. Now, the pressure is on here. Quarry is where the action is heating up. Speaking about heat, Fire to Fire also trying to see where they're going to be rotating towards next. Sneaky, though, getting taken out.
Yeah, Sneaky taken out over there. Nimjugo sitting on 0 eliminations, going up against CP. I'm so afraid to find myself in positions where we are looking ever so favorable to finishing podium finish, and then find yourself in fighting opportunity in an off spawn. It just puts so much nerves over here. So I could just imagine exactly what's happening here with Nimjugo. They did manage to come through with, 1 knock. They revived their player. Now they're knocking the opponent. And you're seeing people come into a position over here where he's going to get eliminated. Yari picks up the double kill right over there. And I think doing quite well for Nimjugo.
That's a pretty good play here. Now, as we jump back over to just Strong, it is going to be Paradox. Looking like they are playing with their fruit, right? They are just rushing in and just laying into just Strong. Currently, 2 players are held up here. But is this the opportunity for Paradox to bounce back even more aggressively? Of course, coming into the match, we know that they were trying to chase as many points as they can find. That is still going to be the name of the game here. But how many will they be able to get? So far, Just is going to be sitting on 7. Ooh. And that is them now in a world of trouble. Paradox, though, they're going to be knocking it out with 8 eliminations already secured. So it is just pure aggression. I mean, this almost looks like it's a final match, but it's not yet.
It isn't yet. And Paradox is actually controlling their playstyle while under pressure. So, I mean, going into big combats and still standing tall at the end of it says something about what they're doing in Season 3. So really big GGs in the big fights that they had in an off-spawn situation. They survived those 2 combats, and that puts them at 8 eliminations. I mean, a great way to start your game number 5 right over there. Nimjugo sitting on 3, so they also trying to make that fighting position for grand podium number 1 finish right over there. But with Paradox continuously spreading that point gap between first and second with how much eliminations they're picking up, it's going to be very tough unless you're taking Paradox out at position 6 positions. I mean, we already have position 6 right now. So if they get eliminated now, that's perfect. But with how many teams have been already eliminated, they've picked up placement points, they've picked up elimination points. So they're looking very much confident on how they're playing. Momentum is quite strong. And we also saw that shift come in after game number 2.
Yeah, it is a very interesting shift that we did see, but let's see if that shift could maybe occur over here. Now, the big troubling play here is for Fire to Fire, right? They are only 1 point ahead of Dragons coming into this match. But are they going to be able to maybe gain a bit of an opportunity to keep the points rolling on through? The Knights, though, are going to be trying everything in their bag to bring as much carnage as they can. They do have 32 points coming into the game. Can they log a full bag of tricks here? So far, it is looking pretty rough as they are just getting shed all over the place. And now a Barrow is going to be the last one left to try and keep their torch alight. Up comes Fire to Fire. Negan. Oh, beautiful hit. And there we have it. Out they go. 6 squads now remain. We went from 11 to 6 in a blink of an eye. And these teams are just bringing so much heat. But of course, as we can see, a big portion of the lobby is still outside of the safe area. So there's going to be quite a bit of rotation still having to come through. But I think for the time being, we are going to be looking over on towards the southern position here for the players from Just and Vent, finding themselves in a bit of an altercation. looking to see who has control of this bridge.
Yeah, right now it does look like Kuro managing to control the players over there, but not getting any of the confirmations is going to be quite a tricky one over there. Kuro is going to get revived quite easily as R6 comes through and supports him over there. On the other side of things, we're seeing damage come out from Vent Esports. They're pushing more aggressively over to Just as things stand. Amara's on that heightened position. Lay manages to place his opposition player to sleep over there, and a revive is going to happen as King Hydra is taking a bit of damage as well, but also dealing and trading on the opposition player right over there.
If King Hydra knew how close they were, they probably wouldn't be standing there out in the open just firing off the hits, but now it is up to the rest of the team to see, can they maybe call their way back? It is down to Supreme, the only hopeful left for the side here of Vent. And this is Just Strong, showing that they are, well, just strong, right? Just locking in on target, pushing forward. Now it's going to be him trying to see, can he pop Supreme out of the sky? It is flying players all over the place. But now the rotation has to come through. That zone is going to start to nip at their heels. The shields and health bars are going to go down. And Supreme actually playing a very good play here, right? Managing just to evade the inevitable for the time being, looking to get the next setup in the zone. Up north, though, CPO still rocking a full squad. I almost got excited and said 3 CPO, but there is, of course, 3 of them right over here, falling back to the rest of their team, as there's still a lot of movement. But Supreme, not out of the woods, getting spotted here by Dantes. Quick deployment of those walls coming up. Is Dantes going to be able to get the jump in on Supreme? Vent now just riding on the edge. 22 points is what they started the match with. Will they be able to get any more? Oh, it is a hot and sweaty exchange. Dantes goes down, and there's still maybe a little bit of hope. But look at this. Nimjugo down to a solo. That is not what we want to see.
Down to a solo, and another opposition team also moving into the compound and now pushing straight into the players' arena, and he gets eliminated. Nimjugo placed 6th at game number 5. That is also going to push FreeFire to an opportunity to go higher on that leaderboard. They're sitting on 7 eliminations in 3rd place, and the point gap between Nimjugo and FreeFire was not that much. So getting taken out that early in game number 5 is definitely going to put a big question mark on Nimjugo right over there.
Well, here we go. CPO looking to step it up. Just knocking on some doors here. Can they get any answers? It is, of course, Paradox, who they're trying to step up to, but up comes the push, the play. It is Sneaky and LTK, a little bit low on health. Henrique rather getting taken down. Out he goes, quick confirmation. 11 eliminations currently in the bag here for Paradox. You can see CPO holding on to 2, trying to keep all the players alive, but it is going to be 2-0, and Baccar getting taken out of here, and that is almost a full wipe. It is now 1 player left for CPO, as the other 3 have been taken on down. It is a very, very grim situation for them, but maybe there could still be some hope. Meanwhile, Vent, though, back to a 3-piece as well. Just Strong, also continuing with the carnage. Looking to see if they can get the jump here on Fire to Fire. Both squads trying everything they can. I mean, Just is only 10 points behind the players here from Fire to Fire coming into this match. So if they can secure the eliminations and those placement points, there is a chance for them to maybe get entry into the top 3.
Yeah, definitely. Kuro gets knocked on that window shot. I don't even know how Saitama managed to find that over there. Also picks up Amara. Luffy, however, getting confirmed completely, and they're having a tough time in this combat as Turb also gets taken out over here. So Fire to Fire is struggling quite a bit. R6 is, however, I think the only player alive for Just Strong, and he gets eliminated. We're down to 4 teams, and you know, Fire to Fire can continue that fighting streak that they have had throughout the games of Comeback Story. That is absolutely beautiful to see come out for them. But I think it does handicap them to 2 players to now fight for an endgame victory position.
Well, of course, VN here can definitely look to play the upset as CPO is just riding on the edge, looking for a bit of an angle, a little bit of a cheeky play. We got Leon, Jimmy, and Supreme also just locked in. Very centralized position in the zone. I think it is maybe going to award them quite a bit of an opportunity, especially looking at those teams from the southern side. It could maybe start to clash, right? This, of course, being Fire to Fire, just trying to secure their rotation up in towards this next phase. CPO right there alongside them. And then, of course, our fourth squad just entering the zone all the way up in the north. But I like what Saitama is doing here, trying to poke through the windows, looking for a bit of an angle, bit of an opportunity. We see so much happening over on towards the players there from Vent. Not quite sure if they're going to be able to get themselves out of that situation. But, well, the rest of the lobby will come through with their demands very, very soon as Paradox is moving in from the north.
Looking at this position right now for Paradox, I think they quite secluded from everyone else, and that north position that they find themselves in is going to be quite advantageous because then they're putting pressure on every other team that is on the south end of the map. Because with the 4 teams that we have right now, the other 3 are quite close to one another. So Paradox definitely have the advantage. They have 14 kills across the board as well, looking quite strong. Fire to Fire is looking fully stacked as well, sitting with 12 eliminations. It's just going to boil down to, I think, in a combating position with the 3 teams remaining, Paradox going up against Fire to Fire for the Booyah. And this comeback story, I think, is going to be remembered for seasons to come.
Yeah, it definitely would, but it's so good to see just the sheer aggression across the board. I mean, Paradox are trying to solidify that ball position, but I like the relentless effort coming through from Fire to Fire. They were only 8 points behind second place. Of course, Nimjugo, they were in second, but we did see them get taken out quite early on. So there is a big opportunity for major upset to come into this match, and I mean, it's still anyone's game at this point.
Definitely, and only 8 points. You know, they definitely have surpassed Nimjugo in terms of points when we're going to look at that update on that leaderboard, because they're sitting on 12 kills, and then there's placement points that they've secured. If you're looking at when Nimjugo was placed, I think they got eliminated at 7th. So that's all the points that they got to miss out on, while Fire to Fire's gotten placement points, gotten elimination points, and they're looking to take out VT in this position over here, and it doesn't connect with that Kobe throw. But other than that, if it's a second place finish for Fire to Fire, that is going to be really, really important. Taking a bit of damage from distance. The zones are closing in right now, and you know, you've got Event Esports with Fire to Fire already. Everyone, in fact, is in the safe zone. So these 3 compounds that exist are just going to continue shrinking, and eventually then we'll see where the 7th zone is going to take us. But as the 5th zone closes, we do got Enrique is being eliminated from the lobby. There won't be any buyback opportunity, as there isn't any checkouts for them in the zone. Nigo and Saitama, Turb and Luffy are looking quite strong on their side of things, putting pressure onto the opposition players. Saitama now going for a rotate into that safe zone, and he's looking quite good. There's just a lot of damage across the board over here, and that does then siphon into the utilities that these players do have.
Yeah, that is really going to make things quite challenging for them. But now, of course, that zone is not done just yet. It is going to shift over into that northeastern side. So, Leon getting taken on down, getting shot out the window as Fire to Fire lights a fire right under them. It is absolute carnage. Paradox, though, keeping nice and quiet, trying to preserve all the resources they have for the time being. But at some point, they're going to have to do something with it, right? Just cautiously moving themselves ahead, trying to get that set up. Yeah, and they're trying to do everything they can here. But Vent, though, caught in between a rock and a hard place, is not going to be an easy rotation or even a very feasible way for them to rotate out. But now Snipe getting snipped at as Negan pops over the ridge, quickly just poking in that hit there. And it is now Paradox to see, can they actually still hold on to this?
I think they can with the zone advantage that they have over here. Everyone has to push into their position right over here. So Paradox is looking ever so sweet on this. It's a 1v1 in terms of teams, as we got 4-3-3, and right now Fire to Fire is doing the most that they can. How has Paradox not manage to win this is the big question, as they are taking massive damage. Snipe now in a healing position as Fire to Fire have found themselves rotating. Sneaky just about to get eliminated as he finds himself going up against Negan. Negan does manage to get the better hand over Sneaky. Sneaky gets confirmed and out. Snipe on the other side of things, taking those shots to his advantage in terms of picking up damage on Negan. But right now it's all about grenades thrown over here from Snipe. He can't connect anything just yet, and it does look like it's a 4v2 still situation that's happening in this position. L2K drops down, does get confirmed over there. It's all down to the hands of Snipe, and he can't do much. He gets eliminated, and Fire to Fire have just come back with a booyah in game number 5. If I'm not mistaken, this is their second win, right?
They are just absolutely on fire. That's what I can tell you about them. I mean, they've just gone, toe to toe, hit to hit. And this is exactly what we want to see. Teams looking to blow the opposition out of the water. Saitama, the MVP. 10 eliminations as a player there. Absolutely insane performances. I mean, Paradox also packing quite a bit of that heat, as you can see, finishing quite strongly on, I believe that is 16 eliminations.
Yep.
Just a little bit ahead of what Fire to Fire was able to do here. So 15 and 16 elims for the top 2 finishing squads in this match. Absolute insanity. But the big question is, has Fire to Fire been able to catch Paradox, or is Paradox still holding on to that pole position? Of course, we will find out very soon once we take a look at those numbers.
Yes, we will find out. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's the final game of the championship Wednesday, ACGL Season 3, FreeFire. A lot has happened over the last 5 games. You know, we've had emotional storytelling around the Migos, where they were on a short comeback, but unfortunately, that comeback was really cut completely away, where Paradox did eliminate them in an off-spawn situation for game number 5. On the other side, though, there was a true comeback story for Fire to Fire, where they did come through in a 7th position and then push themselves all the way to a 2nd after game number 5. But look at this leaderboard right over here, DK. We got Paradox in first place with 98 points. Fire to Fire shortly behind them with 86. And Jugo just struggling to stay into the podium finish with 75, because not far behind them is Just Strong with 67. Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a hot and sweaty game with that 6-7 coming through here. Just Strong, I think they're going to chase it, right? They are going to try and push to see if they can catch up and maybe close up those 8 points they need to catch onto Jugo. So it's going to be a pretty high stakes bit of gameplay that we are about to witness here. And of course, Fire to Fire, they need 12 points to catch up to where Paradox is. So I'm expecting quite a bit of chaos. And as we know, only 3 teams can walk away with that share of the prize pool, right? Because it stops at 3rd place, because that's how math works, right? 5 plus 3 plus 2 equals the total prize pool, and that is it. So if you want to be the one to walk away smiling, you're going to have to sweat a little bit to get that.
Yeah, definitely sweat a little right over here. For Jugo, who were pretty much comfortable throughout the 5 games, not looking so strong going into game number 6, where we saw them in the worst performing map being Alpine. So they can't take a breather this time around. This map is all about fast pace, and when it comes down to Jugo, what I've realized is they are very passive on their rotates. So they've somehow sneaked their way into endgame and win the Booyah in a large map setting like Bermuda. But when it comes down to Alpine, which is all about fast strategy, fast-paced action, they didn't do too well. We're going to have to wait to see exactly what that looks like. Paradox on the other side of things, taking a bit of damage. Sneaky has been hit, but they do got a widespread of drops coming down for Paradox. So even if they do take out Sneaky right over here, it's not going to be a big worry for the team. CP0 is just going to be able to walk away with 1 kill point, or potential 2 if they manage to continue pushing into these final positions right over here. People taking too much confidence going into this, but it's Sneaky's movement that's going to get the better of his opposition, or rather, I spoke too soon and they did get eliminated. However, Team Combat is coming out from a side over there, and they do manage to help out in terms of damage. L2K is also taking a bit of HP damage from OTU.
I mean, so this is exactly what Paradox doesn't want, right? If CPO gets the jump on them, it'd be absolutely devastating, because that crashes all their opportunities for securing their position at the top of the board. But it does seem that we are now down to 10 teams. So if my math is accurate, which sometimes it is, not very often, but sometimes, right? That would lead me to the conclusion that Paradox might have now just gone into a world of pain here. But fortunately, see, my math was wrong, because they're still alive. So they are still moving about. They do have that 1 elimination up. They're still fighting for it, but anything could change anytime soon. So let's see whether or not CPO is going to play the upset here and maybe send them backing. I don't think that's likely, but they could definitely look to try that as hard as they can. With only 10 squads remaining, that is going to make things quite difficult for all teams involved in this final few phases.
Yeah, Enrique out. You got Sneaky with no loadout in the back pocket, and as well as the snipe just chilling between 2 boats. I think the team's going to be fine. They're not going to find that last player snipe in between those 2 boats, because CPO have been, focusing on POI locations. So I think they're going to be quite okay when it comes down to surviving and then getting the buybacks at a later stage. So not to worry. But Paco has been knocked over here, and that's to Amigos. So Amigos coming in with a third party at the drop spot. That's what we were talking about Alpine. It's fast rotations. And right now, Migo's taking full advantage of, managing to loot up and getting the drop onto the opposition players. But I say that, and Luxon and Syrup have immediately been eliminated, and it's down to 2 players for that team. And if you look at Paradox, the entire team is back and alive yet again.
That buyback coming in absolutely clutch there for them. But now it's going to be Fire to Fire that finds themselves in the hot seat as they're going toe-to-toe here with Vent. Again, 2 knocks coming over onto Fire to Fire, but there's, of course, still that buyback opportunity. So let's see, can they be strategic with this? Can they get the jump where they need it to go? In the meantime, we've got Dragon also stepping on up. 8 eliminations. It's been a hot minute since we last saw anything come through from their side. And we also then have Negan on the money, quite literally, right? But is that going to be enough for the team to get that final booyah? Well, of course, we'll find out in due course. In the meantime, Ninjugo are here to defend because, well, they could try and catch up to Fire, or they can defend against the players from Just Strong. Either which way, they are going to have their hands absolutely full, but there's so much carnage all over the edge of zone, and a very interesting dynamic that we see developing between the squads here.
Yeah, definitely looking at that. I don't know if King Hydra's vehicle is just about to blow up or if that's a skin, but it does look like it's blowing up. Fire to Fire, Negan right over here going up against King Hydra, and it does look like Hydra coming in with good positioning on his opposition, but he's taking massive damage. So is the opposition player Negan, and somehow he's just gone out of the compound with Lay and Hydra taking on a 1v2, and Negan didn't go down without a fight in that position. We're down to 9 teams, 31 players across the board. CP0 somehow giving their all in the final map right over here. And Paradox were taking a lot of heat again, as I did see as we shuffled through the teams. They were down to 2 players once more. Knights on the other side, looks like we have some drag racing happening, and Aparo is just on the road type using Nitro and everything that he does have to get away from Dragon.
Yeah, well, you got to keep that boosted as best you can. Oh, yeah, that you need some oil in there, an extinguisher, and a whole bunch of other things as Knights now feel the pressure descending down upon them, and there's absolute brutality coming through here from the Dragons. 1 player on the front line, the rest of the crew locking in behind. Beautiful strategy here from Dragons as they secure their 10th elimination. They are going for it, right? Looking at it, just based on points, they have caught up to Just Strong based on what they joined this match with. But of course, Just has also been just loving such an aggressive approach coming through this game. So we'll see whether or not they are going to be able to indeed catch up. Meanwhile, Fire to Fire jumping through windows, getting spray downs as they too look to defend. Not only defend, but play a serious game of catch up, right? If they want to be the back-to-back season winners, they are going to have to let everything out of the bag.
Yeah, literally. Jugo is still sitting on 0 eliminations. It doesn't help that they, either fighting for better podium finish or they just want to stay in 3rd place position. Finally, Paradox looking to have a little bit of a breather. They're sitting on 2 eliminations as it stands, and the entire full team is alive. We do got Just Esports taking a bit of damage over here. Amar getting knocked and eliminated over there. And then Fire to Fire sitting on 6 kills. So what was the point gap between 1st and 2nd? If you can reshuffle my mind.
12 points.
12 points. So they only now need to cover 8 points between Paradox and 2nd place in terms of eliminations, of course. So they are really pushing in. If they were on a position like Dragon with 10 eliminations, that would have been a different story. But right now, they're going up against Dragons, and King has managed to pick up some massive damage over here. Negan's just about to get eliminated. Turb also quite low on HP, and he's also getting focus from Sifus as well as the King, so it's quite tough over here. Luki also already knocked. So it's 3 of the team members eliminated in this position. Some buyback is going to be needed right over here, and that's Negan going all the way deep into a zone location where he can potentially get some buybacks. Very, very tough position to find himself in.
I mean, that is going to be a very important situation now for Negan to try and stay alive, right? If they want to keep Fire to Fire and the rest of the team in this match. But in the meantime, we are going to be jumping over to CPO and, of course, then Nemjugo, who are still fighting for the honor, right? They want to try and secure their position up in third because that's where they were coming into this game. But now, CPO trying to lock it down. As you can see, the aggression going through from them is, of course, a bit of a trade coming through here. Now it's going to be Diddy just strafing around the wall, getting a cheeky hit. One hit down. But can they make this the one-hit wonder? CPO is down to a two-piece. And there is now even more opportunity starting to come rolling on in here for Nemjugo.
Yeah, Diddy was in a good position over there, dealing some damage. But he's all alone in this POI, and there's the team support coming in, which is Yari, who's flying above them, if I'm not mistaken. I really can't even see who. It's V7 who's flying above, and Diddy has been taken down, but that's not going to hurt them so much. They will be able to come back into it. Paradox also quite close to the fighting zone over there. Dragon on 15 kills and looking to stack up more as they are in combat situation right over here. Remind getting knocked and confirmed, and they're going up against Just Esports. So Just Esports doesn't want to get eliminated just yet, as they are fighting for podium finish right over here. But Dragon is putting in a lot of the pressure onto this team, where Just Esports is also sitting on 11. So they just can't be taken out as of now. They need to continue fighting for podium finish to walk away with some of that prize split. But there's just so much damage coming in. Amar now needing to disengage completely from that arena if he wants to find himself getting buybacks at a later stage.
Yeah, and it's going to be very, very important if they want to keep any kind of an opportunity of getting into that top three, or even just locking in their position in that top three. But now it's going to be Vent who are feeling that pressure, as Supreme is quickly just trying to get the heck out of dodge, trying to just get themselves out of harm's way, maybe bring in a bit of a buyback to recover the teammates. So far, securely making it up in towards the zone. We do see Nemjugo also feeling a little bit of that pressure. CPO also getting hit then as Paradox continues to push on forward. CPO back up to a three-piece snipe, picking up yet another confirmation there. And this is now just Dragons and Paradox going absolutely ham on this lobby. Paradox currently sitting with only 5 eliminations. Of course, the Dragons, from what we saw, already sat on 17 or something ridiculous like that. So this could be a phenomenal comeback. I mean, will the Dragons be able to get themselves a 40-point match? I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. I don't want to say it will be, but I mean, basing on the way that they've been going so far, I wouldn't be surprised if they get real close to that. In the meantime, CPO and Paradox still finding themselves in a bit of an altercation, and it's not been decided yet.
Well, the point difference between Nemjugo and Dragons was 17 points, and Dragons is sitting on 17 eliminations. So did they just catch up against Nemjugo, and will they push them out of that podium finish? Fire to Fire going up against Dante. Negan is in that combat. Glue was placed. Dante getting to that vehicle, which is just about to blow up. So there's pressure. Dante taking massive damage, does get knocked and eliminated. And I think that's the entire team wipe for NJ.
Wow. That is a major, major upset. I hope that it's not Nemjugo getting absolutely wiped off the side of this map. But the answer is yes, they are done. They are dusted. And the elims that they were able to secure has gone to try and buy them enough of an opportunity. But as you said, Dragons were trading by 17 points. They have been able to secure themselves 18 eliminations. And so this could be that insane comeback of the day. But now it is going to be Fire to Fire, having to fight some fire of their own as the shots just are so relentless. The hits come in and down they go. Fire to Fire out of here. This is Dragon now up to 20 eliminations.
Jesus, talk about a great game to go put everything into your last basket, right? Game number 6, 20 eliminations. I think this is the first team to also reach that 20 kill point in a single game, which is absolutely fantastic. Paradox, on the other side of things, have nothing to worry about. Fire to Fire being eliminated, Jingu have been eliminated. Nobody's going to come in for that pole finish and take them away from that. And Dragons have now come into podium finish if our calculations are correct. But we'll leave everything to the ACGL team to announce that after we jump into the talking parts of leaderboard. But right now, Dragons 21 eliminations going up against Vent Esports, and they are dealing the damage, getting some eliminations across the board, sitting with 21, and Supreme also get taken out. Sifu, unfortunately, is going to be wiped out. 5 teams now remain with 13 players across the board over here. Remind taking a bit of damage, and we are seeing Sifu brought back, so that team is back to full capability. CPO left with 1 player, Keeper, and he's just about to get eliminated as he's taken massive damage, and that's King, who's going to pick up even more elimination points. Back to 24 elims for Dragons. Sifu yet again knocked and needed to be brought back yet again, and you can see that coming into play for him right over there. 4 teams remain, 13 players across the board. Paradox Esports about to do sneaky, but the revive isn't going to be able to come into play for them. Dragons Esports going up against Knights, and as well has Paradox. So this is a full swing for victory right over here, and it all comes to who is in a better position for the final moments.
I mean, so for Dragons to catch the top 3, right? They've points wise, I think they might have made it into the top 3 already, just based on the past performance that they've had. But if they get a few more eliminations, like they just got there, right? They could be contesting for pole position. They've got 26. They need 4 more eliminations to get 30, right? I said they were 40 points behind from 5th into 1st. Now they've got 30 eliminations on. They are still players alive. 3 more eliminations available for them to try and clutch up. That is going to be absolutely insane. If they get this plus the placement points, I hope that Paradox can do enough, because they've got 10 points, and if they're not careful, the Dragons might come napping at their toes here.
Man, talk about fighting your way and forcing your way into podium finish from 5th to a potential 2nd as it stands right now. Obviously, we're not sure of the final eliminations that came through for Fire to Fire, but they were eliminated quite early, and that meant placement points were not in favor for them. Vent, Timmy, on the other side of things, is taking massive storm damage over here, so he's just about to get eliminated, and that's going to go over to Dragons, who they do pick up 32 eliminations over there. It's now Sneaky, who's left alone as a solo, and it's a 4v1 situation for Booyah for Dragons to potentially push into a great finish for final game right over here. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Game number 6 done and dusted, and Dragon came through with all the magic tricks in their sleeve, and as well as all the eggs inside the basket for an amazing performance for game number 6. Talk about historic change in placement for that leaderboard right over there, and we'll give some time to ACGL to obviously do that. But man, how much eliminations did they secure in this? About 35?
33 eliminations. 33. They not only got the basket with all the eggs in it, they took the whole farm, right? It is now theirs, right? Dragons, absolutely insane. I mean, what a performance. I think this is probably the biggest streak that I've seen from a team, finishing with 33 eliminations and the Booyah. Absolute insanity. But you got to love that for them. But now it's all going to come down to the numbers, and this is where I am very happy that I'm not the one doing it, because numbers at this point, no. We'll wait until we see all the pretty pictures come up to see exactly who is sitting at the top. I can tell you that there's going to be a change. Who has changed to where? We don't know, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll definitely get Dragons in that podium finish, no doubt, because it was only a 7-point difference between 3rd and 5th, and those 17 points were cleared easily with a 33 kill point coming in for Dragons over there. And then it was a 30-point difference between 2nd and 5th, and they did also manage to clear that one out. But Fire to Fire did pick up some eliminations through that, and they were eliminated about 6th place. So they did manage to sneak in a little bit of points to help them to potentially stay in second. But I don't know if they did manage enough points, if I'm being honest. Paradox, however, on the other side of things, I think, they're still looking quite confident as pole finish and as well as champions of ACGL Season 3. But, DK, you and I, we're not the mathematicians in this, so we're going to leave it to ACGL to tell us exactly who finished where and what is the final points over there. But 6 games, done and dusted. 4 weeks of qualifiers to get to these final moments, and 12 teams to now compete for their share of 10,000 Rand. And that first place position looking very juicy with 5,000 Rand added to their banks. Second, 3,000. Third is 2,000 right over there. So big prize money distributed to the Mzansi of FreeFire yet again. And here's the final leaderboard, ladies and gentlemen. Paradox Gaming has your champions of the ACGL Season 3 with 117 points. But look at that! Dragons coming in second all the way from 5th with 103 points, and Fire managing to secure a podium finish with a good comeback story. But nothing says comeback like Dragons with a final finish of second from 5th, and Nonjugo from 3rd to 5th place position. Talk about an absolute thrilling end to the championship of FreeFire Season 3 ACGL. Man, BK, what do you have to say about that finish? It's a cherry on top of the cake.
I don't know much about numbers, right? But I can tell you that the Dragons nearly doubled their points in one match.
Yep.
In one match, right? They had 58 at some point. Now they have 100 and a lot of points, right? Insane performance. But I think overall, going from Season 2 to Season 3, right, we have seen a beautiful improvement coming through for a lot of teams, right? Nemjugo, previous season, they finished all the way 9th place. This time around, they finished well over on that left-hand side. So improvements are very obvious. And I mean, I'm curious to see just what is going to happen when we get into even later seasons, just how these teams are going to compare to each other and whether or not Fire to Fire is going to be able to keep a podium position coming their way yet again. Of course, that keeps them right in the money, but you got to give mad respect to where respect is due. Paradox Gaming playing a phenomenal game. Dragons, they have to compete against themselves now, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not fair.
It isn't fair. That game just really changed the whole dynamic on that leaderboard. You're going into the last game, the team talk is about, guys, let's just stay alive, let's stay consistent. Nobody's close to us in terms of points. Who's going to get more than 17 kills? Who's going to get more than 30 kills? Nobody, guys. We got this. And Dragon said, keep quiet, let me do what I do best. And they really changed the entire perspective for game number 6. But as everything that's good must eventually come to an end, tonight is coming to an end with 6 games played over the 12 best teams in Africa to showcase their talent in ACGL Season 3. It is absolute GG's to Paradox, who are now the champion title and holding for the next season, where we're going to be seeing more from these teams yet again. I'm looking forward to inviting more FreeFire members to try qualify and get themselves into the competitive spotlight of the ACGL seasons. So without wasting further more time, we'll see you guys in the next one. But DK, thank you so much for joining us over here. It was really great being alongside you. You are respectable when it comes down to your voice. You know exactly how to control and entertain us with the jokes that you do bring into the commentary, something that we don't usually get from other places. So it was really nice. Thank you for having you here, man.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me. It is an absolute blast. And of course, I think we also have to give a big shout out to all the players. You guys are absolute monsters. I'll leave the lobby when I see you in there. And then, of course, to our amazing viewers, thank you all for joining in and supporting the action. Big shout out to everybody behind the scenes, making all of this action happen here. But of course, Aero, big shout out going to you as well. Thank you so much for having me here yet again. And yeah, look forward to seeing what the next season will bring.
Well, let's see exactly what that's going to look like. Thank you guys for coming. We'll see you guys in the next one.